absolutely stunning! They are the champions!
Welcome to the Haymarket Theatre here in Leicester at the United Kingdom. We have gathered around here at the battleground for the European Masters 2019 Spring Final. Exactly 20 days ago, 20 teams from 13 regions kicked it off with the play-ins, and it ends here today with the grand final. Two teams who have fought themselves through the play-ins, through the group stages, through the knockouts, and even survived that semifinal yesterday. Only one of them will be victorious today. Only one of them will be able to pick up this trophy, and only one of them will be able to call themselves the European Masters. Please join me in welcoming the first team representing the LFL. It's Misfits Premier. In the top lane, it's Dan. Jungle, Obsess. Mid lane, Leader. AD carry, Neon. And their support, Eva. Representing the Premier Tour, it's SK Prime. In the top lane, it's Sakura. Jungle, Frenic. Mid lane, Genax. AD carry, Kadui. And their support, DOS. Before it's gonna go down, before it gets heated, I'd like to invite Frenic and Dan to come over here at this part of this stage. Please guys, if you would join me here. You have your mics ready. Frenic, I want to start with you. How do you feel stepping into this final?
Really confident, and it's going to be really close no matter what, I think, because Misfits is not bad, so we're going to have a lot of fun here.
Misfits is not bad. Do you feel the same way about SK?
I think honestly, SK has been, like, the owners have been really good throughout the entire tournament. So I think, just as him, I think the games are going to be quite close. That's for sure.
You guys are so sweet to each other. Even anything else left to say to each other before you step into the rift? Frenic.
Have fun on the Rift, homies.
Very sweet. Dan.
I was gonna say something bad, man. No, okay. I mean, well, since I rehearsed it, you know, like you're representing the German scene. There's 4 German players on the stage. It sucks that the only good German player is on our team.
Are you gonna leave it with this? You wanna have your smack back?
Okay, so one last thing I've got to say is that we already beat the best French team, so today's going to be a walk in the park.
Things are getting heated over here. We're gonna get ready for that pick and ban. Let's go over to Kiernan, who's at the analyst desk.
Hello and welcome to the European Masters Analyst Desk, sponsored by PaySafeCard. My name is Kiernan Excoundrel Low, and that went 0 to 100 real quick.
They were so nice.
I know. Do you want to welcome my analyst desk for the day? It will be Celtic Tiger and Foxtrot joining me for the entire broadcast. Yeah, gentlemen, that was interesting. We had a very humble start.
Yeah.
These guys are good. Going to be a really close series to actual flame.
Yep. You know what? It's good to be confident. That's the way I'm gonna leave it.
Confident, cocky. Either way, it's entertaining, right?
I mean, at least it's both sides.
I love
Putting it all out there.
I really love how Danzo went, by the way, I rehearsed this line, so I'm going to say it. Oh, bless him. Right,
nice.
I just want to quickly show you guys how we got to this stage just across this weekend. You can see on the bracket, Misfits Premier beat Mad Lions 2-0. SK Gaming Prime dispatched Fnatic in the same manner, and that has set up this final as a best-of-5 between Misfits Premier from the LFL and SK Gaming Prime from the Dark Region German Premier Tours. It is France versus Germany, 2 teams that have never been in the European Masters finals, 2 teams that have obviously never claimed the throne, and it looks like we're going to crown ourselves a new region as the winner of the European Masters today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think that both of them have massively stepped up. Of course, they both came from the play-in, so of course you'd have to massively step up coming in as those second seeds.
So, gentlemen, I mean, this has been a journey. I mean, it has been, as Colin said, 20 days of competition from start to finish, play-ins to end, and these are 2 teams that have made that entire journey. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about how you feel about how the competition's been. What have been the standout moments for you across the European Masters? Because it has been full of excitement.
Yeah, I mean, I look back towards that Group C, the Group of Death, aptly named, because as it turned out, you went through there and they were the ones who pushed forward into this live stage. Both the people who got through Fnatic and Misfits made it to the live stage, and from there, Misfits are now in the final as well, looking incredibly strong.
I think just the whole overall competition that we've seen this year has been really high. I mean, if you look at Fnatic's quarterfinals against Ventus, the Nordic team, that was a 2-1. Could have been a 2-0 for Ventus. They were looking really, really dominant. And, you know, we saw Rogue fall out in the group stage. We saw Devils 1, who was one of the more dominant play-ins team. Didn't even get out of play-ins in the end. Like, you can't sleep on any team this year. And Misfits especially have been underdogs throughout the whole tournament, and they're going into this matchup being underdogs as well, so I think it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, it's really funny because we came into the European Masters with set expectations. We talked to players, we talked to coaches, we talked to teams. Everybody thought they knew what was coming in terms of which teams are going to make it through, which teams are going to smurf this entire competition. No, I don't think anybody predicted our 2 play-ins teams making it to the finals, especially maybe not even Misfits as well, who have constantly surprised. And actually, you ask the field about how they feel. It's coming out 50-50 for a lot of people, maybe slightly favoured for SK, but there is genuine belief that Misfits can take this pretty convincingly too. So I'm very much looking forward to this best of 5. Now, gents, let's have a look at how our regions have done throughout, because we have kind of kept up to date with this. It's always good to celebrate the regions and their performances. And you can see the Dark region is at the top by a significant margin in terms of the win-loss record. They are 16-4. France, obviously, similar wins because they got to this position, but a slightly less impressive record, but still impressive nonetheless. Anything else that kind of stands out to you here? We've had some great performances from several regions and maybe even some that we wouldn't have expected.
I mean, I think Spain consistently showing up as one of those top regions, even if they're now not in the finals, is quite impressive, because fact is, we talked about it previously, both teams, both champions of the European Masters have been from Spain. They remain that level of consistency even if they're not going to be fighting for the championship this time around.
Yeah, the UK scene also isn't a negative this year, so
yes.
we're making
we
strides.
We are 50-50 even at the end of the day. That is
perfectly average, perfectly balanced as all things should be.
I will absolutely take that. But we are here to celebrate our top 2 regions at the moment. It is the French LFL, the German Premier Tours, those are the two regions that will be duking it out to claim the best title in terms of the best region in Europe in terms of those regional leagues and the kind of talent they produce. I'm very, very excited for this. So we should really move on to our game that is coming up. It is obviously going to be that final between Misfits and SK Gaming Prime. If you didn't know, we kind of mentioned it several times already.
It's right in the corner, by the way, as well, just in case.
And I kind of want to just kind of talk about that overall process of getting here for these teams. And I'll start with you, Celtic. Misfits have had a bumpy journey, that's for certain, but they got the work done when they needed to.
Yeah, I think even coming out of the LFL, they'd consistently been improving. So but even by the time they hit play-ins, I don't think they looked even necessarily one of the stronger teams coming out of there, because we went, look, they're fairly linear. They go for 1-3-1. That seems to be what they're limited to. So they went, look, maybe we are, but we're going to lean really heavily into that. We're going to refine that style down to the point where no one can contest us on it. And it's worked, because every time, everyone knows what they're going to do, and there's still no response coming out yet.
One of the interesting points is that a lot of people say, obviously, MAD were severely weakened coming into this semi-final, so it's difficult just to assess the power level of Misfits here. But Leader looked like the same old Leader, right? He still was solo killing, and I'm sure when we get to talk about him, this.
Yeah, I mean, that was not a sub mid lane.
No, that wasn't the sub mid laner, and Leader still did Leader things. So that's something that SK will have to prepare for. But speaking of SK Foxdrop, they've had one of the most impressive journeys in the European Masters.
Yeah, SK have looked really good, honestly, the entirety of the spring split. Not just EU Masters, even domestically, they've been doing really well in the regular season. Haven't quite kind of transformed that in their playoffs, but this is when now they really have to step up and show that actually we can not just perform online, but also offline. The series against Fnatic yesterday as well, the second game was really, really close, but SK just across the board show multiple threats in various different lanes. You have some of the strongest solo lane combinations that will really be able to take it to Misfits and match Misfits in that strength. The top lane, we have to talk about Sakura as well. Like, this guy, for me, is the MVP of the entire tournament, the best player we have here at EU Masters. Frenic as a jungler as well has had a phenomenal performance so far and is really good at setting up his lanes for success as well. And when you just go from top to tail of this roster, there's not really a weakness that you can exploit. So SK moving into this finals are looking really, really scary.
And they've actually had no losses on blue side as well, or on red side rather, because they just consistently lean towards those flex counter picks. So when they get that red side, they look so comfortable.
So you guys did mention the top lane, but also the solo laners in particular. And I'm going to do this for my good friend Will. It's stats time! I'm going to hand it over to Usheen BP, and he's going to have plenty of stats to talk about when it comes to the solo laners.
Thank you very much, Excoundrel. And yes, of course, we are going to be talking about those incredibly pivotal solo lanes. We're going to start up right at the top. You're talking about the MVP of the entire tournament versus King of Split Push, Dan. How does that work out? As you can see, KDA's pretty much in favor of the side of Sakura. He's at 5.4 versus a 1.9, but that's because of the way these teams kind of decide how they play. We've talked about it many times. Misfits love that 1-3-1. Dan is on an island. He does not go anywhere except top lane, and he stays there. Whereas Sakura, he's roaming everywhere around his map. He gets lane dominance. He got 21.5 plus in terms of his CSD, and his champions as well, the Kennen, the Swain, the Jace. They share a couple of them, but at the end of the day, he is the team fighter, and that's the biggest difference there when it comes to these two sides. Dan will have to try and, subdue the side of Sakurai. Well, Sakurai has just been so dominant, so it'll be very, very interesting to see how that one goes. And now we go for what I could say would be, probably the most pivotal matchup for both these sides. It is going to be the mid lane, and we have got Leader versus Genax. Leader has been highlight play galore, whereas Genax has just been a rock. And if you look at the champions in particular, you look at Leaders, this is only for group stages, quarterfinals, and semifinals. He's got Aurelia, Zed, Cassidy, and Yasuo, all assassin champions. Not really great for team fighting, depending on how you look at it, depending on how far ahead they get. Whereas if we flip it over to the other side, we got Genax. Genax got Jace, Corki, Ryze, Cho'Gath, Victor, Akali, Zoe. The only game he's lost on that so far has been that Zoe. He's 100% win percentage on everybody else. So even just looking at some of the numbers, CSD at 15 for Leader is 9.4, whereas Genax is 3.3. He doesn't always take over games, but what he does do in terms of taking over, he does in consistency. Another little quick stat that's not even just here is that Leader has 21 solo kills in the entire tournament. It is nuts how this guy makes advantages. However, there is a flip to that. There is a negative to that. He also has 16 isolated deaths where none of his team are around him. So you can take that as it comes. But realistically, it's going to be kind of more towards exactly how these matchups go for, and we'll really see exactly what they want to do with it. But my eyes are definitely towards these two sides, and I really do think that it's all on Leader to really try and suffocate onto Genax, and also on the opposite for the side of SK. They need to control the split push, they need to control the 1-3-1. But even just looking at it from just a stylistic point of view as well, Genax looks for, as much of a team fight as he possibly can. Leader is, again, on that 1-3-1. And that's where the difference comes in for these two sides. You can even see with the champions, again, you got the Cho'Gath. They also played a Renekton the last time they played this one. There's actually Genax and Leader in the play-ins. Leader played Yasuo, Genax played Renekton, and he hard destroyed him. It was just not a pretty sight whatsoever. And I just don't understand how it's going to work out. We're going to have to wait and see. But again, more and more coming out from these sides. We're also going to want to look at the bot lane as well. Yesterday, the bot lane for the side of Misfits looked very, very strong. And we're just going to have to see how this one goes. We're going to throw it back over to Xscoundrel, though, and then back onto the desk.
Teams are gearing up. You can see on stage they're setting things ready to go. Now, in a minute, I'm going to be asking my analysts to perform a little game show, but we're not going to get into it just yet. Gents, I just want to get your overall opinions of these two teams and how they've performed. I kind of want to talk a little bit about their play styles too. I mean, don't go into too much depth because I've got that little fun game show segment for you to do in just a second. But I mean, do you think stylistically, which team do you think comes out on top stylistically here?
I think it's really hard to talk about these two teams because going head-to-head, this is what's so exciting about this matchup is that Misfits have been able to really perform in that 1-3-1 when you have people like Leader in the mid lane and you have Dan in the top lane. Their game against Rogue in the group stage is a perfect example of that. And then on the other hand, you do have SK, who have been more of a well-rounded team, but have also been able to show us that in those solo lanes, they can absolutely perform. Genax in that mid lane has been a complete corker. Sakura, I've already mentioned, he's the MVP of the entire tournament. Like, this guy's got it going on up there as well. It's like, where do you find, it's two teams with the same stylistic play styles, kind of butting heads, going up against each other. And it's really hard to predict this one for me because it's like you've got two people who are really similar and it's going to be so exciting to see what they can do on the ring.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are ending the Analyst Desk segment here. We're going into Xscoundrel's 60-second showdown. That's what I'm calling this. I'm naming it after myself. I am going to give both of my analysts just 60 seconds to tell me exactly why their team is going to win this finals. Analysts!
Yeah, I wasn't. I'm not the best prepared for this one. My predictions were a little different, actually, for this game. Who's going first, actually? Should it be? By the way, I think you're going for Misfits, right? Or I mean,
maybe I haven't really decided yet.
Okay, you can go first, mate. I'll let you go
Right,
first.
gentlemen.
Yes.
I'm going to give you a 60-second countdown. In that 60 seconds, you are going to explain to myself and the audience exactly why you think the team that you represent is going to take this best-of-5 finals. I want to know styles. I want to know reasons behind your individual choices. I need to know everything in 60 seconds. You have 60 seconds, and if you go over that time period, I will stop you. If you are under that time period, feel free to stop and pass it back to me, and I can hand it over to the next analyst. So I will start with you, Celtic, or I was going to say Celtic, but I will start with you. And when I say go, you have 60 seconds to tell me why Misfits are going to take this best-of-5. Go!
Okay, so they have perfected the 1-3-1 over the course of this tournament. So naturally, when it comes to SK, who always go for those flex picks, it's going to be so simple for them to just completely dismantle that. You look at what they've done. Everyone knows exactly what they're going for. You know what Leader's champion pool is. It doesn't matter. He's going to destroy you anyway. He's been counterpicked. It just doesn't do anything. And you come then into it, you have this jungler who's able to follow up on that. He's able to match that pressure. And yes, there have been questions of that consistency. Fact is, they're consistent enough to hit the finals. Why aren't they consistent enough to win? And you're looking at consistency, SK have already shown that they struggle offline. Yeah, maybe they managed to get to the finals, but where does that end? They've made it to finals before. They've lost in those Premier Tour finals, and Misfits continue to look strong. You want to look at solo kills, 21 Leader. Second is Genax with 7. So fact is, he is struggling in comparison. He will never perform to that level, and certainly won't at this final be able to match Leader there.
First the burst, second's the best, third's the one with the hairy chest. That's what I say. Let's bring it on to my turn now, okay?
All right, ready.
Because you said a lot.
That was well timed. That was well timed. But I've got to start the timer, Foxy. Ready? Go.
You said a lot of statistical things backed up by empirical knowledge. I've got a stat for you. Frenic is good, but Obsess is giga boosted. How's that for you? I think Sacre is the best player in this entire tournament. How are you going to go up against that? All you can play is 1-3-1. You've been chatting a load of rubbish about various play styles, all this malarkey. There may be a lot of bells on my head right here, but there's not a lot of ways for your team to execute on the Rift. Yes, that does make sense. Don't look at me like that. Misfits as well. We saw them since the play-ins. Just like SK, we've been bigging that up and saying, oh, that's a really fantastic stat. Isn't that a great storyline? Misfits have looked awful in that play-ins. When they lose hard. They've been exposed multiple times. It's terrible. How can you bet on these guys when they go up against Rogue and barely win a game? How did that even happen, by the way? That was the worst victory in the history of League of Legends competitively. I don't know what's going on. Last thing I'll say, Leader, you are very handsome, mate, but have you seen Fennec? That guy oozes class and style. It's no match.
Alrighty.
Right. I had to sit down for a second there. I was knocked off my feet, but I can't really crown a victor. Just going to take your baguette for future eating.
Yeah. Primary use of baguettes, I'd imagine.
Could have like a baguette sword fight with it, but you know, I get hungry as a desk host. We are very quickly moving into picks and bans. Gentlemen, that was a very, very good set of arguments. I think analytically I'm leaning towards Celtic, but Foxy...
In fairness, he was right. They're handsome people.
Yes, that's very true.
That's true.
Foxy has definitely got the entertainment value in that 60 seconds. I'll give him that. All right, so we are moving into picks and bans. Gentlemen, this is where we're going to bring things back to analytical reality. And you can see already starting off Braum, Akali, and Taric already for Misfits Premier.
I'm trying to get my analytical head back on, actually. I'm a bit
Maybe if you take the bells off.
I'll take the hat off, actually. That might help.
I'll start us off.
I think when you wear the clown hat, you may just act like a bit of a clown. You know, it just comes with the territory.
It happens anyway,
I'll start us off. Looking over the Akali Zed band, you generally see Leader triple band. I'm really interested to see whether they continue with that trend, or we now see Misfits. Yeah, they basically go for the triple band there with the Rise as well. So I expect the Aurelia first lock.
And it is the Aurelia first lock. Now, SK are probably predicted this. The Renekton was banned against Genax. It looks like we're waiting for SK's response. I imagine that SK have thought about Renekton as a ban here because it generally counters that Yasuo Aurelia champ pool that Leader is going to default onto. So we'll see exactly where they look to come back with something very standard for SK. Foxy, they go for the first lock-in. They actually follow up with Frennick going onto the Sejuani
This
too.
Jace first pick is something that's been happening all the time for SK. Sakura has it banned against him a lot as well. In the Fnatic series, in the semis, this was how it went every single draft. First pick Jace. Kedui actually tweeted out yesterday as well, mocking Fnatic for the fact that they let them get Jace as a first pick every single rotation. And it's the power red side, right? We don't know if this is going mid lane or if it's going top lane yet.
It's going to be this is actually so reminiscent of the drafts that we saw yesterday from Misfits. The Morgana for Hiva. You said you preferred this for Hiva, actually, Celtic.
Yeah, Hiva's biggest issue has that been when he goes for the big engagers, which he's more comfortable on, he often finds himself either not being followed up with perfectly or kind of left out to dry in some cases because he's put himself in some bad positions. So I actually prefer Morgana because you can engage from range. He puts himself in less bad positions generally.
This has telegraphed both of those solo lane picks now for Misfits. That's obviously Dan on Vlad. That's obviously... well, I say that. There could be like this last-minute switcheroo, but I heavily doubt it.
It's 90% likely because, of course, Dan loves to go for those kind of flanking split pushers that Vlad leans into.
Okay, we'll wait to see where SK respond. Whether we're going to see all solo laners locked in the first rotation of draft here, which is something that even on red side is very uncommon. Or probably blue side is very uncommon, but massively uncommon on red side. We'll have to see. Actually going to secure the Ezreal for Kedui here, something that he played very well yesterday in their series against Fnatic. We're going to head into that next phase of bans.
So Misfits bot lane has been one of the more criticized elements of this team and their playstyle. But when they have looked really good, it's been with that Kate Morgana, with Neon and Hiva really taking over the game from that bot lane. So now that SK have picked that AD carry, and they're most likely going to be banning out AD carries for Misfits, I wouldn't be surprised to see Caitlyn being the second one here.
I would expect that as well. I guess the Vayne just knocking out some of the... Actually knocking out a lot of the engage potential here with that Varus as well. Could, if you want to follow up with more engage, just go for the Ashe, but I feel like you just go for the Caitlyn again.
Yeah, I think Caitlyn is just the go-to pick here. If you haven't banned it, you just got the Caitlyn Morgana bot lane. It's a difficult bot lane to deal with.
It doesn't punish things like Ezreal as heavily, though, so that's why they were willing to lock that and leave it open.
Shoves Ezreal in. It really depends on the support I think you go for SK, but Caitlyn Morgana is almost unstoppable in terms of pushing potential.
It wins the lane, but it doesn't kill Ezreal consistently is the big thing you could save from it.
What I'm concerned with is if they're going up against Caitlyn Morgana, that naturally has to force Frennick to react to the bot side of the map. And then that makes Frennick in an awkward position where he doesn't get the opportunity to spend that with the solo laners. It's going to be the Azir locked in for SK, likely going for Genax against leaders Irelia. And Neon very happy to default over to something like the Caitlyn or even the Kai'Sa, which is up for him too. Kai'Sa, interesting, I don't think it'd give them as much kind of dominant pushing potential in the bot lane, but you still have the Morgana as a support. So.
Helps out a lot in those kind of mid-game team fights, though, which you could be leaning towards, which so does Sivir.
Yeah. That's a great combo right there, Sivir, Olaf as well. So you have that early game in the jungler there for Obsess on that Olaf. As you transition into those team fights, you have a bit of a like wombo combo, ulti combo.
And talking about looking at, as we were saying, the Caitlyn Morgana should have heavy priority. Sivir makes it even easier. You just shove that wave in consistently, and you have, as you said, Olaf backing you up with that early priority.
Soraka gets locked in here for DOS. This is a pick that we haven't seen much of now in the tournament at all, really, in a little bit. I think we've seen maybe one game of Soraka throughout the entire European Masters. I'd have to double check on the stats there, but looking at this, Misfits seemingly have a very comfortable draft for themselves. SK have pulled a little bit of a wrench in the works here with the Soraka, but gents, you know, we have 40 seconds to go. I want you to very quickly, and I'm going to go with the thematics that you have in terms of costumes. Celtic, tell me why you think Misfits could win this one based on composition, if you think they will at all.
I actually like a lot of their early priority. I know you have things like the Jace and even the Azir, which can hold a lot of that off, but I think given they have that pushing bot lane and the jungle, I expect them to snowball quite heavily through that early game into a mid-game win.
I think the safety of the bot lane from SK especially means that it's going to be hard for Neon and Kiva to get online, and that's the only time we've really seen them be efficient as a bot lane in the EU Masters. And I think, you know, when you got Sakurai, you got Jace, it's always going to be a scary combo, so I think it's looking good for SK in my opinion.
Okay, that is it. That is it. We're gearing up for the first game in this best of 5 between SK Gaming from the German Premier Tours and Misfits Premier from the LFL. We have two casters that will bring you all of the action in the final. It is my pleasure to introduce Hiprain and Ender.
Thank you very much. Hello and welcome to the finals here at the European Masters. My name is Jake Hiprain Matthews and I'm joined by Chrissy Enders Frierson. How are you doing, my man?
Oh, I'm doing great, and it was his pleasure. Xscoundrel was pleased to introduce us. This draft was sick. I'm so excited to see this final.
Well, it's my pleasure to see us at Rockers. This is the first one we've had here in the European Masters, so pretty excited to see how this is going to go down because we've seen Neon and Hiva. They had questionable games, but coming into the live stage of the tournament, picking up this Morgana Caitlyn, switching that out with a Kai'Sa now. This is something new from this bot lane, and they are really stepping up, and they hard carried Misfits in their 2-0 yesterday versus Mad Lions.
Yeah, it was a bottom lane that looked very good in their games yesterday. Now with some, you know, questionable things being brought in here, the Soraka, we don't fully know what to expect from this champion. I'm very excited to see how that plays out in terms of the laning phase, but also come these team fights, which we know both sides are eventually going to be looking for. It's going to be a very valuable pick.
I'm really excited to see how this game's going to go because we look at the comfort as well that's been picked up across all of these teams. Leader got his Aurelia, didn't get hands on the Kali or the Zed, which we would say is probably the most comfortable champion for Leader, but he's on this Aurelia, played it all day yesterday, and he had a good game. It wasn't like the flashy game, not what we know.
I mean, he had some pretty flashy plays.
Well, we're taken to the Summoner's Rift shortly.
And we're out of there.
And we're out, back onto the stage. Won't be long, won't be long. But talk to me a little bit about these compositions. Now we're on the Summoner's Rift. What are we expecting, Ender?
What are we expecting? Such a broad question. I like it. Ultimately, I think both teams have some interesting things that they're looking for. I think starting with Misfits, they have a much more standard composition. You know what to expect with this team. Now, the big call is going to be canceled. That's a little unfortunate for Hiva. We'll see if he can get back to lane. But ultimately, Misfits, they have strong teamfight tools, I think, in terms of AoE damage. You know, you have the Vladimir in the top lane. Leader on the Aurelia is going to be very, very comfortable as well. And with the Sivir, I think they have a lot of tools to try and look for mid-game fights. That's where I feel like this team really does unlock, and especially if there's a lane to play around for Obsess, it will be this Aurelia in the mid lane. Snowball Leader, he'll be getting solo kills, and then you can use that to try and take over the rest of the map.
And this is one of the things, is everyone's been focusing on Leader for Misfits. They've been focusing on this matchup, you know, Leader, king of the isolated kills, Genax behind him in second, but it's far behind in numbers. But then we look at this top lane, and Sakurai, still one of the players who everybody is bigging up to be the best top laner in this competition. And he's against the likes of Dan, who is possibly one of the best split pushers we've got in the competition.
Yeah, and Sakurai is on, by far, the most lane-dominant champion you can take in the top lane. Jace basically wins every single match matchup. If you don't throw your Qs into minions, that makes it a little bit worse in the lane, but you can see with the summon Aerie as well, he is going to be putting a lot of pressure down on towards DanDan. For DanDan, this is not a lane you expect to win, but rather with the Vladimir, a champion you expect to scale very well into teamfights post 2 items.
I mean, we can talk a little bit about the histories of these regions as well. If we do look at Misfits for the French region, for the LFL, they've always been a region that everybody said is one of the strongest regions in Europe, but they've always had okay showings, but not top-tier showings. The Dark region, another fairly bigged-up region. In the spring of 2018, the first European Masters, they fell flat. They didn't win a single game. Season 2 in the summer of 2018 looked a lot better, and now they've made it all the way to finals. We might have to hold that because Leader jumps onto Janax, gets a trade-off onto him. We'll just be able to jump away with the Blade Surge back to a minion.
And you talk about these regions, you know, trying to rewrite history for the leagues that they come from and the performances that their regions have had at these international competitions. Let's highlight a player, Leader. This man has been absolutely stunning for Misfits. Probably the best mid laner in the tournament. You've all seen his highlight reels, I'm sure, on champions like this Aurelio, where he finds these solo kills and really is the focal point of his team. If you're predicting a Misfits win today, it's because you believe so much in this player's ability to just carry games.
And that's the crazy thing, because a lot of people are saying people like Maja Felix were better mid laners. But he's beating them out. He's now here in the finals. But looks like we actually might have a couple of junglers hanging around here. Neon and Hiva on this heavily pushing lane, actually being shoved in. Because of the poke, but DOS is able to kind of push down on the Soraka.
Yeah, one of the things we didn't really touch on the Soraka was how good it can be in lane, and as an answer specifically in towards the Morgana, because typically if you see a Morgana alongside a Sivir, it's very easy to push with that lane. But Soraka's Q, the Starfall, has a very low cooldown, and Ezreal's Q, very low CD as well. So matching range supports, Kadui and DOS can actually get priority in this lane, and DOS will be very annoying against Hiva and Neon as long as he has the mana to spam out his spells.
Well, looks like Fnatic is showing up in this mid lane just to try and force Leader away for the moment. Shove this wave in, give Janax an optimal basis. He is a little bit low on health, but does need to be careful. Leader just throws out the stun. He's okay, though.
Yeah, and importantly, Obsess was able to full clear his entire jungle. He's not running Predator, so didn't go for the early boot, so making a gank work up here top lane may be a little bit more difficult. He's just going to walk into lane here and help DanDan push out.
Yeah, looks like both the junglers just doing the push job at the moment, not the ganks they really want, but very slow about that Predator on the Olaf. Running the Conqueror, though, so he can get a lot of damage if he continually goes into these long, extended fights. Also got a lot of healing to work around with. Kedui and DOS now low on mana, so that push, that poke they had is now worn off for them.
Now, Obsess is still sticking around the top side, but notice Fnatic, after resetting, walked straight back top lane. He has his Krugs to farm, so sort of the same idea when he was maybe looking for a dive when the waves crashed in bottom lane. Obsess was doing the same thing on the opposite side of the map, but because both junglers read what play was going to be happening, nothing ended up going down.
The Ignite's got down!
No.
First Blood picked up for Hiva in the bot lane.
Very disrespectful there from Kadui. He had no mana, so could not use the Arcane Shift there, had the flash up as well, so it's just one binding into an immediate kill, and the tides of the spot lane have completely turned.
Teleport's coming in. As you can see, it looks like it's just going to be Kedui joining up, and he jumps onto Hiva, throws a lot of damage out, forces the flash away as he flashes in forward. Might just land one more auto attack. Kedui blocks it up, and Neon saves the life of Misfits bot lane.
Kadui really thought he could get that one last auto attack onto Hiva. Now
we're
Leader.
not done, because Leader now jumps onto Kedui with Blade Surge after Blade Surge gets silenced and flashes away. Leader finds a solo kill.
Let's make the 21-22 solo kills for Leader as he comes back in. And think about how miserable this is now for Kadui. 2 deaths in the first 6 minutes of play. He lost his flash. He used his TP to get back to lane. So now Neon, who didn't die, who returns to this lane with a BF sword, fully pushes in this wave and denies Kadui so much.
And that's got to be scary for the likes of Genex now, seeing Leader's just got himself a kill by triple long swords as well, so just getting as much quick stats as possible. Azir as a champion really struggles when someone can jump on top of him because he has to be able to relocate the Sand Soldiers with his Q or just have enough Sand Soldiers up on his W, which does mean that if he doesn't have Sand Soldiers, he is just going to get smashed by Leader in a 1v1 as Leader's now got level 6 but is flashless, so do have to keep that in mind for the moment.
Yeah, Gen X also showing some Insecurity here going for the cloth armor as well. Probably going to work into the Seeker's arm guard now that he knows Leader has all that physical damage coming off of that first kill. So mid lane not going to be too easy for him, although, oh man, this bottom lane is not looking good for SK.
Hiva is looking for the poke. They do have those boomerang blades, but Leader's been jumped onto. Throws out the Vanguard's edge. 1v2, he's going to go down as Frennick secures the kill.
Good look there from Frennick. You know, a lot of control wards in that bottom side of the river there. Leader playing very aggressively. We know this player will always go forward, so Frennick was able to abuse an empty pocket of vision on the side of Misfits to find that kill.
Obsess actually looking for something onto Frennick, but Frennick does have that Arctic Assault available, so can get over the walls if need be. Or just be able to run away towards the Gromp, but Hiva comes in, lands the binding, but Arctic Assault over the wall, Frennick is going to be okay, but Obsess, his prize is a frog.
Yeah, this is really good for Obsess. He's building up a very large CS lead because while Frennick was walking around between bottom lane and the mid lane as well to try and get a good reset for his lanes, Obsess went for the full clear early on. Now that he's counter jungling as well, he's built him up a pretty decent EXP lead. He's level 6 to level 5 of Frennick, and knowing that Frennick was forced out of that bottom side of the jungle, we'll be able to pick up a very early Ocean Drake, just help Misfits continue the push.
Well, Neon just shoving this lane in. If we do talk about the push, we do start to talk about some of these CS deficits that are starting to grow in that bot lane. Small lead amounting here for Misfits, but the top lane, Dan over Sakré. It's a big, big lead. 77 minions to 57 for Dan, so he's down 20 at the moment. You can see the gold lead already 600 ahead for Sakré in that top lane, and that is what's keeping SK equal in the golds at the moment.
Yeah, Sakura and also Jenax building up 10 CS in the mid lane because of Leader's rotation down towards that bottom lane. The solo lanes from SK have always been the highlight of this team, specifically Sakura in the top lane, but Jenax too, been doing his work. Now Frennick has put a lot of resources into helping this middle lane because Leader is flashless, but look at where Leader is playing in this river. He knows that with his jungler on the bottom side of the map and without vision topside, if he just hugs down this southern side of the mid lane, he should be relatively safe.
Does need to be careful though, because Frennick now does have that Glacial Prison available to him, so can find that pick on to Leader. Also got the Emperor's Divide for Jenax, so if he does step over his mark, he will get caught out. Another binding does connect and into the Boomerang Blade. Okay. Neon's starting to look a little disgusting.
Yeah, this bottom lane is getting out of hand and getting out of hand quickly. Sivir with, I think, 4 points in her Q now is doing so much damage on these Boomerang Blades, and I mean, Kadui is just hopelessly out of luck. No flash, no TP to get back to lane. He's going to go down another 10 CS in this match as plates continue to get picked up by Neon, and this bottom lane looks worse and worse for SK.
Dos does need to be a little careful as Neon with the spell shield was able to recover a little bit of mana. So he continues to remain in control of the CS. He's actually looking to maybe just clear out the wave. I get a little baited by Aurelius sometimes. I think they're jumping into face. They might just go for it, but not this time onto Jenax. Sakré returns back into this top lane. See Dan trying to stack up as much cooldown reduction as possible. Pretty standard stuff for a Vladimir. They want to be able to hit that level 9 mark, which is only 1 level off, and then get as much points in the transfusion as possible so he can sustain the lane from Sakré's poke.
Yeah, I think it's been long enough now that Dan is relatively comfortable in this lane. You can see Obsess spending some time around him as well. Obsess really just super objective focused in this game. He was able to solo out the Drake earlier on. Now 10 minutes immediately when the Herald spawns because Sakura was worried about him being up here. He lost priority top lane. Mid lane just reset for SK as well. So Obsess is doing a very good job of identifying these windows where no one at SK can punish, and he knows he's completely out of vision.
Well, the pings are coming down. SK do know this is going on. Roomtail will be picked up in time, and Obsess actually does just find out Frennick here. Question is, who has found out who? Frennick does have that Arctic Assault in 4 seconds, but needs to hold fire for the moment as Leader forces him out with a flash. Frennick makes an escape towards his Tri-Brush.
I just have no idea what Frennick's doing right there. I mean, he didn't have a mid laner or top laner collapsing. Just a huge mistake by him. He loses his flash, and now SK need to go in full damage control because while their solo lanes are doing a decent job of farming and the gold isn't getting too out of hand, you see this bottom lane that has now been constantly pushing. You can't do anything.
What? Neon is starting to run away with this game way too much, and looks like SK don't have an answer right now.
I mean, the answer is flash or heal, which DOS has both of. He's just not using them. That's 2 inexcusable deaths by the SK duo.
And now you got a 2-0-2 Sivir. This is a champion who wants some time, wants some items under her belt before she really starts to scale away. Neon piloting this perfectly, and first Terror Blood will go down maybe on the next wave here. Standan taking an all-in from Sakré, low HP, heals up the transfusion, has that Hemoplague available. His first turret will go down in that bot lane.
And because this bottom lane is winning so hard for Misfits, it makes the game for them so much easier because you expect, I think, Obsessed to maybe have to spend a little bit more time focusing, you know, top side is maybe trouble, bottom lane. We saw the Ezreal and Soraka could do a lot early on, but now the fact is Neon and Hiva are just slamming in the 2 versus 2. Obsessed needs to spend no time down there, so it makes it much easier to punish.
Vanguard's Edge into the Emperor's Divide. Looks like leaders trying to run away, forces onto Doss. He's gone in. A massive ultimate by Fennec has caught out Obsesses. The flashes are coming through. Another stun onto Fennec as he is low. A wish goes down, but it heals. Not enough as leader finds the kill. And in comes Misfits to the mid lane.
Misfits are on fire right now, winning every single fight. Let's put more gold on towards Neon. They're dropping down the Herald to secure that as well.
Hiva! He's okay. The charge will go off. No one gets any plates there. Actually, Neon got them, so that's fine. More gold, the Infinity Edge, the Ruler's Glove finished up onto Neon, and you can see Kedui just sitting on components items at the moment.
And we already knew Misfits, their composition is so strong. They have so much damage, especially on 2, approaching 3 items. The fact that they have this lead early on, specifically on Neon, who's the slowest scaling, I feel like, for this team, it's going to be so good for them. That's 2.3k difference in the bottom lane alone.
I mean, Dan still taking a lot of poke here from Sakurai. Could just be the avenue that SK need on this Jace, but you know, as Jace gets in later into the game, does start to fall off a little bit, especially into a team that has a hyperscaling AD carry, has a Vladimir as well, who also scales exceptionally well into the later stages, and Misfits with a 3k gold lead under 15 minutes into this game as well. They are sitting pretty in game 1 of this best of 5 here. The LFL, strong start for this region. Neon just continues to get even more gold.
Dawson Kadui completely zoned every time he wants to walk up for a minion. Unless he's willing to commit the cooldown of his Arcane Shift, he's going to get hit by damage from the Q. And while Doss can sustain it, he does so at the cost of his own HP. So this lane is absolutely unplayable. And if you look at the minimap, where Obsess is right now, stealing away this red buff, even though he's on a ward, Frennick knows he can't answer. Frennick is on the other side of the map trying to set up a dive. This must work for SK or it's going to go from bad to worse.
Well, they're looking like they're just continuing to snowball off this tower plates here. You can see multiple members from Misfits hanging around in that bush, making sure Neon is nice and safe. Neon won't be able to take this turret as the plates finally fall off, so we won't get that final one. But Kedui, low HP, takes an axe after axe to the face. So he's very, very low, and now Misfits look to shift their attention towards this mid lane, crack this last outer turret, and continue to grow further and further ahead of SK. Question is, Ender, what do SK need to do now?
Oh.
They're down 4k, they're being sieged up on multiple fronts, they got an AD carry that's scaling well out of control at the moment. What do they do?
I think you have to figure out what's working on your team at the moment. And right now, I think that's the solo lanes, Sakurai especially winning in the top side of the map, and your mid lane as well. Well, it's not, you know, GenX hard winning mid lane. He does have a CS lead, and this champion is approaching the point where it will be very strong on the Azir. You know, 2-3 items for this pick. It will do a lot of work and can try to make up for the lack of damage coming out from the bottom lane on this Ezreal pick. So for SK, it's less about forcing any fights than it is trying to continue to, I think, divide the map and play around this Jace pick, because right now team fights are not going to look good. The one area of the map where you do have a distinct advantage is Sakurai. He has a 60 CS lead up in that top lane, and it is possible to try and punish this Vladimir further.
And now that Cloud Drake picked up by SK, it means Frennick can move in between these lanes, look to try and get these solo lanes going with a 1v2 kill. As we did see, that's how they shut down leader at the beginning, but hasn't seemed to have affected this man too much on the Aurelia. Third time here on the live stage of the tournament, he's got this pick, and I don't think we're going to see Zed, unfortunately. We all want it, but I don't think SK are going to give him the Zed. He's too good on this champion. Same with that Akali as well. But the Yasuo, that is an open option. So maybe that's something that comes out later if they decide to ban away the Aurelia. But Dan, low HP here, gets the heal up, but it does force the flash out. He jumps away to safety. Sakurai unable to find that solo kill.
But you can see SK are doing exactly that. They're playing around Sakurai. You know, they gave him the red buff. I believe they took that from the bottom side of the map. Frennick donated that one over. So he has the ability now to actually CC and slow Dan in the side lane. So when he pushes up like that, you can punish. And Neon, the hardest thing I think for Misfits is that they would love to punish him. They'd love to get a shutdown, but being the Sivir, having the spell shield, Hiva too, the black shield makes it almost impossible to shut this guy down.
There's a bit of a flank coming in from Misfits here. Wanding goes out, doesn't quite find his mark. They're just clearing out the vision, pushing in. They want to take this turret so they can start to divide the map even more. Siege up on multiple fronts, move those vision, move those wards up deeper into SK's territory. The turret will finally crack here. And at 16 minutes, a 4,000 gold lead over to Misfits.
And you know, if there's anything that SK can take in going into this mid game and have some confidence moving forward. Hold that thought.
Hold that Emperor's Divide. Leader's been caught out with multiple members, uses that Vanguard. The Black Shield comes in, the True Shot goes wide, and Leader makes his escape with the help of Hiva.
Well, SK would love to try and collapse on side lanes and punish Leader, but Leader will be able to escape there in the end. What I was going to say is that Misfits as a composition, I feel lack dedicated hard engage. You know, you have tools like the Sivir to try and speed you up and run you down. Of course, Dan coming in from a flank, once he finishes off his, 2-3 items, is just going to blow up the backline almost immediately. And mid lane as well, Leader does have the ultimate to try and apply some CC, but it's not that hard engagement to try and punish you, to try and blow this mid game wide open. So SK will have to be cautious for that engage, but I feel like it is something that they can try to dodge away from and continue to look to scale.
But Dandan's looking to jump onto Sackray, forces the Hemo Plague out as Leader now trying to collapse in. A good ultimate by Frennick will catch out one. A stun comes down, and in comes Obsessed, looking for the flank. The Wish has healed them up, but Obsessed has slows. They have no turrets to run to. Frennick is so tanky though. Leader on the chase, and in comes Neon. The Blades are coming down, and Sackray forced to flash away as Neon secures the kill. Frennick jumps away to safety, and Misfits find one.
It looked like Frennick was trying to jump in there, trade his own life for Sakura, but it doesn't work down. Sakura goes down. Doss also fell moments before, so that's Misfits finding the flank on an overextended SK and punishing them for it.
You gotta look at these items that are still in the build pass here for a lot of the members for SK. Sackray, he's got the Cleaver, he's got the Yomus, he's got his item spikes, but the rest of his team, they're lacking so much. The Manamune and the Sheen is just onto Kedui. You've got a Stinger and a
Seeker's Arm Guard.
Seeker's Arm Guard, thank you, on himself. So he's very far behind. Obviously, Aurelia just finishes up that Triforce, but it's a very expensive item, especially with the fact that he rushed Triforce, Tiamat early into that. So it's a good start here for Misfits, is using their gold effectively. We can see at the moment where the gold deficits are. 4,000 gold. Neon is 4K ahead of Kedui.
Go away. We can't see this. This is not safe. It's not okay to show.
Man. This is not fine.
Yeah, and it's only a 40 CS lead too. There's just so much from kills, and also the unseen gold, it's the turret plating that almost all got completely donated onto Neon. Because you remember the way he moved around the map, it was bot lane in the 2v2, they took down 5 plates. Then he rotates top lane, gets all those basically by himself. In the mid lane, they donated the Herald to also funnel more and more gold onto this champion. So we are at 19 minutes and 30 seconds. Neon has 3 completed items. This build looks like it's a 35-minute ADC build.
Yeah. I mean, it's free. This is insane.
And for context, I think yesterday when Neon and Hiva were playing against Mad Lions in that lane swap game, he was at this point at 23 minutes, and we thought that was insane. Now it's even faster, and Misfits are snowballing even more than they did yesterday.
I think if you're SK, you're just, in the next game, you cannot let them get that Morgana, because when Hiva's on this Morgana, he looks very comfortable, and it gives this avenue for Neon to shine on whatever AD carry he picks, because we thought it was just Morgana. Caitlyn was their strong pick, but now we're seeing it works with the Sivir. If this was the Kai'Sa as well, potentially it could have been a similar case as well. So strong start here for Misfits. So only 20 minutes into this game, but if you do think about the game versus Mad Lions, they'd won by now in that last game.
Fair enough, Hipbrain. I still think Misfits are going to really have to work to close this game out. They have the damage. That's not what I'm concerned about. It is more about moving into that next objective. So for them, because all the outer turrets are down, it's very hard to press further onto the map. Instead, they must look towards objectives like the Baron, which they will be starting now, and you can see that Hiva and Leader will be outside trying to zone away players like Doss and Frennick so they can't put down vision in this area of the map, and Misfits can potentially pick that objective up.
Once they move Neon onto this Baron, they should be able to cut through it like a hot knife through butter, but for the moment he wants to continue to shove the waves in the mid lane, get that lane priority, because remember in the video yesterday, SK did say the lane priority was one of their weaker points. It looks like SK definitely playing around that as well, just forcing all the waves in their favor. Kedui needs to be careful. The Boomerang Blade going to be dodged out by the Arcane Shift. But Neon continues to shove in the mid lane.
And now it looks like Doss has run out of wards on his Spell Thief, so we'll have to go back to base and restock on those. That gives Misfits time to move over towards the Baron. I think they can go ahead and freely start this up with Olaf and Sivir. You are going to be able to take this one down, and there isn't any vision inside of the pit for SK.
Well, watch for Frennick. He gets caught out by the binding. In comes the on the hunt. The True Shot Barrage goes a little bit wide, and Genax is on that flank. Frennick goes down as Heaver secures the kill. Misfits find their pick onto the jungler, and now they may just shift their attention back onto the Baron.
It's so easy now for Misfits, knocking down the jungler. That's the only person that can try to contest. Unfortunately for Obsess, he was taken down relatively low, and the fact that we're only 22 minutes into the game means that Misfits aren't going to risk it, because quite frankly, they're in such a comfortable position at the moment. They can afford to take it a little bit slower, look for the next pick on towards Frennick, and that will be the one that they try to secure the Baron off of.
Well, looks like SK turn their attention a little bit towards this second Cloud Drake here. Want to get some priority around this part of the map. Looks like Sakurai just heads back into that bot lane. Misses out on the shot blast.
All right, that's unlucky.
Oh boy, that's unlucky. Dan now, got the Proto Belt, got the Zhonya's as well, so starting to get a fair amount of tankiness and survivability versus Sakurai.
Yeah, the difficulty for Sakurai is, yes, he's building up a CS lead, but he can never pressure the tower, because the way Misfits have been playing is very much to push this mid lane and threaten the collapse onto Sakura. So he pushes that bottom wave, and ideally in this matchup as Jace, you want to go all the way forward, all the way next to that bot lane inner tower, and that's how you try to push the game forward, playing this split push style where you know as a 5v5 you are going to lose, but because Misfits have the stronger team fight as well as full control over the center of this map, it makes it so easy for them to make that movement down towards the bottom lane, and SK would not be able to react in time to be able to punish that move.
All right, as we take stock of the game at 23 minutes here, we can see the gold lead exponentially growing in favor of Misfits. They continue to remain in control. It's Frennick having a little sniff around. Misfits just trying to get control of the vision around the Drake area. They want to be able to find these picks again and then see if they can turn that into a Baroness. Looks like Neon and Obsess are going to start this up now. We'll get spotted out by that Scryers from SK.
Yeah, so SK have 2 Scryers orbs they can use to try and look in towards the pit and get vision. They're going to use a second one now. They see it at 6,000 HP, and Frennick must move forward, but he gets bound.
Well, the bound does actually connect on. In comes Genax. Heaver goes golden for the moment, has thrown out the chains onto Frennick. You can see on the side lane, there's a channel coming in as Dandan's trying to get the damage out, but in jumps Leader as he's found one already. Genax sends him back over the wall. The True Shot Barrage secures the kill, and the Baron is secured. Dandan now, 1v4, needs to be oh so careful as Leader stuns up Sakurai, and now you can see Leader's there, but Neon is into the middle of the pit. He's trying to find the damage onto SK as they step away. Misfits get Baron and lose one.
Oh, it's an incredibly tense moment around the Baron. Misfits tried to hold Baron to about 2.5k HP. That meant Frennick had no chance to steal. Then Leader flies over the wall to assassinate the jungler while Dandan is looking for the zone control on the other members of SK. It almost was a chance for SK to get back into the fight though, because Kadui's ultimate sniped out Obsess and left an opening that they weren't quite able to capitalize on.
Unfortunately not. 7,000 gold separates both of these teams. Misfits with the Baron. And Neon now with another BF sword and a Vampiric Scepter means he has a lot of life steal to work with. It looks like the 1-3-1 is getting set up here by Misfits. We're playing into their strengths. This is what Misfits were known for doing. But let's have a little look at that fight once again.
Yeah, see what Misfits do around this Baron, because he was on the top side of this, and of course he's just trying to zone Genax from hitting the pit. Leader uses the ultimate to get the Q reset to jump over the wall and to assassinate Frennick. Meanwhile, Dandan and Neon are actually running down to try and zone away the 3-man core, but that's where the snipe came in. Unfortunately, because of the zone work that Dandan was able to do, SK just weren't close enough to try and throw a skill shot over the wall and steal that one away. So it is Misfits now with the Baron with an 8,000 gold lead and full control over the game.
Inks in Neon just pushing in this wave, waiting for the next one. Buff that up, and the 1-3-1 definitely in full start here for Misfits. So they're looking to close out game 1 versus SK. See whether they can do it on this Baron, or if SK have the ability to bite back, have the ability to fight back here. So Binding goes narrowly wide onto Genax. He will be able to make his way out. Genax should be able to clear out these waves with all the Sand Soldiers for the moment, though.
It's a slow wave clear, though, because all the soldiers have to continually auto-attack. It's not like you can instantly burst away the minion wave or anything like that for SK. Again, SK don't have the greatest tools to try and stop a siege either in terms of looking to force a team fight. It really is that Sejuani ult coming in from Frennick if they can try to collapse on one of these side lanes, but If you do that, it's going to be at the cost of one of your inhibitors, but if you don't, you're just going to lose them anyways.
He was low. True Shot Barrage comes in. Janax throws the soldiers forward as the ultimate's been thrown out by Neon. Janax is low. The Emperor's Divide stops them up for the moment. In comes Kedui. The Boomerang Blade secures the kill. Kedui jumps away to safety, and now Neon is ripping through DOS. He just takes him down with 3 auto attacks. A binding goes wide, and the inhibitor will be the focus.
Neon just cuts down DOS where he stands. Misfits continue the push in towards the base. There is nothing that SK can do. Misfits want to end it right now.
It looks like their game is in shambles. The teleports are coming in. Leaders are going to join up as Frennick loses half his HP. Leader lands the stun as he jumps onto the backline. Frennick makes it to the fountain in time, but the turret has crumbled. Misfits, low HP, but a Hemoplay comes out onto 2 members. Leaders clearing out those waves, and it looks like SK may just have done what it takes to hold up for the moment. Sakurai is on that chase as he flashes forward. The stun's not going to quite connect, and they are looking for everybody on Misfits. Frennick does not have that ultimate available as he's flashed into the fight.
SK desperately want to chase it down. They snipe out T.Va, and they're still on the chase. Kadui running out of mana, though. The slows from the Iceborne Gauntlet will run out.
He's going for Dan!
No!
Oh, no! Not enough to find the kill. Misfits will lose 1, but they take everything from SK.
SK desperately needed to win that fight. They needed the gold, but they saw their hopes be dashed right there as Misfits took down so much. The top lane inhibitor, an inhibitor tower in mid, a Nexus turret as well, puts them 10,000 gold in the lead, and Neon pre-30 minutes is closing in on his 6th item.
Neon's teleporting into that mid lane. Next Drake's an Ocean Drake, so Misfits probably not even fussed about that at the moment. They just want to crack more of SK's base. It feels like one overstep by SK will lose them this game. But Misfits, if they have an overstep, it doesn't lose them the game, but it gives the game back to SK. They can then play with that. So we'll have to see whether or not Frennick can find that big engage for the team that you've been talking about all game long so far. He now has his ultimate available. Could look for that pick.
Question is, where do SK make their final stand? Is it on their Nexus, or is it going to be on the Baron spawning in a minute and 20 seconds? Well, Misfits may not even give them that opportunity, because with the pressure of super minions in the top lane, with Leader pushing up this mid lane as well and looking for a collapse, Misfits are just grouping up and pushing towards the base of SK.
True Shot Barrage did come through, but a good Black Shield will chunk up some of that damage there. Neon pushing in this wave, but great Vision of Empire. It's Shurima's Legacy, isn't it? Great Shurima's Legacy.
There you go.
It's going to slow down the siege here. The Sun Disc.
But it's just buying time for what seems like the inevitable now for SK. Obsess actually going to take some time to solo out this Ocean Drake, but Misfits are not slowing down. They have the ability now to just push on for this next tower without the Baron, though, as you're going to be doing much more work when it comes to clearing away these minion waves. So they may just look to collapse on this exposed mid lane inhibitor, use that to then turn back towards the Baron, and then their final push. But one more team fight is all it would take for this Misfits team, the representative last standing of France now, to find their first win in this final.
With the double Ocean Drakes, they've got a lot of sustain to work with. You can see how much damage those Boomerang Blades are doing. As Sakurai has been sent into the top lane. Neon's a little bit low. Does need to be a tad careful as True Shot goes a little bit wide. Doesn't find its mark onto Misfits. They're continuing up for the siege. The binding does connect onto one. Jenax takes a Boomerang Blade to the face as well. Health bars starting to be chipped away little by little into SK as Kedui has to go mid to deal with the wave pushing in. It's a 4v1 push here as Leader is also up in that mid lane. It looks like Dan's going to join in. They may just go for this inhibitor.
Yeah, Misfits, they just need one auto attack from Neon to knock this down. Once it falls, they can then look for the engage on Jenax.
Well, that's the ulti already been used. They're charging in. Binding does connect onto Frennick, and you can see Jenax is trying to get that damage down on the Azir, already quite low. The ultimate goes wide, but Dan on the flank turns into a puddle of ketchup. You can see the stun onto Sakurai is going to be enough to keep them going. The Sakurai, he goes golden for the moment, but nobody has died in the fight as Sakurai finally goes down. Misfits look to try and tidy up. It's all onto Jenax. It's all onto Frennick, who flushes it forward. Jenax jumps away, goes golden underneath his turret, and Leader is looking for the damage. Neon takes him down, and Misfits are just destroying SK where they stand. But the True Shot Barrage almost kills Obsess. The turret goes down, the Nexus is exposed, and Misfits will take the game.
Misfits have done it. They go up 1-0 in the finals up against SK, and they do it in style. They dominated from start to finish, and believe it or not, it was the bottom lane that people doubted, that stepped up most. Neon and Hiva absolutely demolished in the 2 versus 2 and were able to blow that out of proportion and dominate the rest.
I mean, Misfits have been looking so solid in all of this offline section of the tournament. Fantastic showing coming out from Misfits, the LFL representatives from France, as they take game 1, but it is a best of 5. SK still have a lot more to go if they're going to be knocked out, and they have to fight back in the next game. So let's talk a little bit about what we think they need to do going into the next game.
Well, I think for SK, the big problems came very early for them, and it was just inexcusable deaths, honestly, in the 2 versus 2 bottom lane. If they can shore that up, which I think they should be able to do, you know, you can just use your summoner spells, be a little bit more respectful of the enemy duo, then all of a sudden, you're not getting smashed bottom lane. That gives you a lane you can play around. It makes the game harder for Misfits. So it wasn't the period of 10 minutes onward that they need to fix, because by that point, they're already so far behind. It really is just the laning phase, which we know this team can be good at, that they need to reel back in and fix.
Well, it was a fantastic game there for Misfits, but we have more to go, so we're going to cut to a quick break, and when we're back game 2 of this best of 5, so don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a second.
Welcome back to the European Masters. We just saw Misfits take down SK in our first game of this best of 5. And gentlemen, Celtic and Foxdrop, was this expected? Because I think a lot of people were expecting SK's solo laners to have a huge performance here, but the bot lane from Misfits looked so good.
There's like a real simple colloquialism that I think covers this, you know? Let's get this bread.
Are you going to yeet the wheat now?
Of course. But yeah.
He has yeeted the wheat. Wheated has been yeeted.
I believe it's Yate.
Yate, oh, sorry.
No, but seriously,
yes.
seriously, talk to me about this game, because I think the standout thing is that there was several, I think it was 4 2v2 solo deaths in the bot side of the map from SK, and Misfits bot lane just looked dominant.
Look, and I want to clarify a point we sometimes bring up here. Sometimes say that, look, Misfits bot lane hasn't looked convincing. The reason we say that is because Misfits bot lane, when they look good, they look amazing. They've been so good, and Neon, I think, has been very consistent. But when they struggle, they have struggled. We remember the 217 Pantheon bot. You could talk about that being a stranger lane, but certainly even in some of their more standard game, we've seen a lot of dodgy engages coming out from Kiva that have put them on the back foot.
And it was a bit untraditional in the way that Misfits got their advantage this game, because it was through that bot lane, which is not really what we've seen. We've seen a lot of 1-3-1 coming out of them, and from that, Misfits were able to snowball, were able to get advantage. Like you saw with that Baron play, despite here as well, SK tried to bring it back, but just weren't quite able to.
And one thing I massively wanted, their control around Baron was perfect. They put the vision forward, they didn't go too far, they never overstepped, and every time SK came in to contest, they were there to continue to control that vision, they were there to defend it, and they got a lot of picks off that way. That's eventually what really gave them that Baron.
So it certainly looks like the Misfits bot lane offline have been as steady as anything, but let's talk about that potential counterpick into leader, because SK knew the Irelia was coming. I was told that there was some insane counterpicks coming through. Then they lock in the Azir. Now, that there is a matchup where you should get small advantages, is the range versus melee matchup. You should get small advantages there. Nothing major was gained, and then they didn't actually do anything with the Azir afterwards. What are you thinking draft-wise? Do you think this was a big surprise? Was this that big counterpick, or have we got more to see from SK?
I can understand the Azir pick, right? I understand the logic behind it. It was, look, we can control some of those side lanes and then try multi-man some of the other areas where we can basically try shut down some of those split pushers. The issue is, to do that, you have to not hard lose the laning phase. And they did.
I mean, I'd be fair to SK's solo laners.
Not the solo laners.
Sakura like almost Flame Horizon Dan. He looked incredibly strong, although he could never fully convert it. Dan was playing Vladimir, which eventually becomes quite safe anyway. And obviously, leader is always going to be a solo laner you're going to get tough, or find it tough to get huge advantages versus. The Renekton ban, I think, really shut down some of those big potentials for GenX to take something quirky in the mid lane. We'll have to see if that holds true for the rest of this series. But it does feel that there is a massive leaky gap on that bot side of the map for SK right now.
When we saw SK play Misfits in the play-ins, it was when we saw that Renekton mid lane, just as you mentioned, and it came from attacking that mid lane, attacking leader, hard shutting him down, winning that 2v2. Because I do think that Fnatic has the advantage over Obsess in the lane phase with how they play, and Fnatic's ability to get its solo laners ahead. If you pick that Azir, that is obviously not the playstyle you're going for. And I think in the draft, they had answers. SK had answers to what Misfits were trying to do. They saw the Morgana early. They went for the Soraka, but execution just wasn't there.
I was chatting downstairs to Veteran, who's one of the coaches, and he said he thought that they were supposed to be putting 3 into leader. So you had the Ezreal, the jungler, so you had Ezreal, Sejuani and Soraka go into leader on a 3, and then you just leave Azir to wave clear mid, and you try and 1-1-3 instead of 1-3-1, for instance, and don't leave someone solo versus leader, because we all know what happens when you leave someone solo versus leader. But they never really worked out that way. I want to see some changes up here. We're going to have the same side selection here for Misfits and SK.
Yes.
And I love the Morgana ban. I absolutely love the Morgana ban. I think you needed to do this.
Yeah, I think the Morgana as well is the champion that I think Hiva's look most comfortable on. And we were talking about that when their bot lanes struggle. It's generally because Hiva's the one struggling. You want to kind of remove some of that comfort as much as possible. I wouldn't even be surprised, though, if Hiva goes back to the Rakan that he loved so domestically as well.
I want to see as well Fnatic pick up his Jarvan in this game. We saw it a lot in the Fnatic series where it was Jace, Jarvan, these first 2 picks. Instead, he went for the Sejuani for more of that reliable engage, more of that kind of teamfight style. But I just think that Fnatic has looked better, and SK as a whole have looked better when you've got that kind of early game power, and I think a lot of that comes through the jungle pick.
Jarvan, I love it. I wanted to see that, just as you said, Foxdrop, that is a bit more active for Fnatic. And interestingly enough, I was chatting to Fnatic coach. He said actually before this tournament, they researched Fnatic, and he wasn't that much of an active early game jungler. In this tournament, he's been a bit more active, a bit more lane sort of presence, looking to make early impacts. But the Ryze, I want to talk about this now, Fox. Ryze comes through. This is something that Leader plays. It's the only ranged champion that Leader has played in this entire tournament. And I think they do have a bit of flexibility between Dan and, well, yeah.
Well, I mean, they still technically do, but I would expect Leader to be the one playing the Aurelia.
Yeah.
That's the expectation. I wouldn't be surprised to see them subvert that, though, given that this is the finals. They're up against a team that loves to flex pick themselves.
Misfits just laying it all out on the table. Blue side first rotation, 2 solo laners locked in. Very happy to do that into SK so far and leave their bot lane to get a bit of priority. Maybe they are just really valuing that 2v2 right now, saying we know our bot lane is better, and performance-wise has shown that already. But it's going to be the Thresh for DOS, frequently banned against him.
I really, really like this Thresh pick here because last draft it went open, wasn't picked because it's really bad into Morgana and Sivir and Vladimir, basically everything that Misfits had picked. But I think DOS has looked on another level when he gets this champion. It gets banned against him very frequently as well, as you mentioned. And so now there's full comfort in every single one of these picks here. And SK, for me, this is already looking like a much better draft.
Yeah, and I think you also then ban away the Tahm Kench, because not only is it great when you're going for those split pushes, it is also a great denier of that Thresh engage. So not surprised to see that taken off the table there as well. I expect the supports maybe to continue to be attacked from SK's end.
The Azir ban now coming through for Misfits. Don't want GenX to pick that up potentially into Leader once more. Not that it had the hugest impact in the last game, but maybe just trying to make it more comfortable for Leader in that matchup.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that, again, we talk about how the bot lane fell so far behind. This time with the bot lane draft being better, maybe that's something Misfits are a little bit more aware of.
We'll see how this progresses. The Galio ban now coming through. So targeting Hiva. Rakan still available for Hiva if he so wants it. It is something that he's played quite frequently.
Thresh is okay.
It's rough into Thresh, I will say.
That's what's great about this. You know, for me, this Thresh pick works on so many levels. You ban what works against it. It counters Hiva's best champion. And your bot lane was leaky part of your roster last game, so you just get that comfort pick there too. So this Thresh already, I think is throwing a bit of a spanner in the works for Misfits.
We'll see. Kadui looks like he is gearing up for his AD carry pick, which means we're going to have a bit of kind of shadowing over those solo laners right now.
I like that because the obvious response for Neon and Hiva would have been Kai'Sa Alistar. I like that they just took that way, that Kai'Sa. It gives them a bit of versatility there as well from SK.
Well, now Misfits are going to reveal their bot lane, and again, they have full knowledge of what they're playing into here. So Misfits are very happy to potentially go for the Xayah Rakan bot lane. Neon and Hiva very comfortably taking this in. And now SK, remember, Sakura could take something else. We've seen GenX on the Jace in the semi-finals already. He had a great performance on that himself. And we'll see if he feels comfortable, maybe not so comfortable into the Aurelia matchup
as well. Like we've seen these mages get picked into champions like Aurelia and just kind of nullify the lane a little bit. Because if you've got Jace, Jarvan, and you know it's most likely that Ryze top lane, you just want to play around that and leave mid lane alone. And Victor is a perfect situation for that.
So Victor gets locked in here, and gentlemen, that means I'm going to give you a bit of time each. I'm actually going to reverse things this time. Foxy, start off. Misfits, what are they looking to do?
Well, Misfits have a ridiculously strong solo lane setup as you see them in the entirety of the EU Masters. It's really their bread and butter. So in that 1v1, in that split push, very few things outscale something like the Ryze. And Leader on Aurelia is a treat to watch. You know how strong he is on that as well. So what I am looking at here is to see whether or not Obsess can actually get good tracking on Fnatic and make it so that Sakura, especially Sakura in this top lane, can't just feed off of Ryze, because it can be a little bit of a tricky matchup there.
Now, I would love to be able to answer this simply, but honestly, looking at what SK have brought out, it's a little bit up in the air. It looks like they're maybe leaning in towards more of a teamfight-oriented thing. They can go for a lot of engage. They have the Thresh, they have the Jarvan, and they have a lot of quick damage coming in towards that mid-game. And even that late game as well, Victor, Kai'Sa do quite well. I'm just a little bit worried going into that Ryze as well.
Who do you think wins?
SK.
I'm leaning Misfits.
All right, split desk. That means time to hand over to our casters again. Hasn't changed, Hitbrain and Ender.
Thank you very much, Xscandrel. Hello and welcome back. Obviously, it is Hitbrain and Ender once again for this game, as Misfits, they managed to take one game there over SK at the beginning of this best of 5. Do you think this draft has changed a lot here for SK, and can they pull it back off this?
I think there have been some pretty significant changes. You know, bringing in the Thresh in the bottom lane for DOS especially was a big one for me. But also, on the other side of things, I feel like Misfits have such a strong team fight presence, you know, with the Zyra Khan in the bottom lane. They just have so many options here to work with.
Well, we're loading through onto Summer's Rift for our second game of this series. Misfits 1 point up over SK. SK looking to bite back in game 2 here. We'll have to see whether or not, once again, leaders Aurelia is going to be enough in this mid lane versus Jenax.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
And Jenax on the Victor is interesting as well. To pick we have seen from him, Jenax typically looks to go for these more scaling style of picks, and I think the Victor is a good option for him. You know, especially once you get that E-Evolve, you can pretty reliably clear away these minion waves up against the Aurelia, and with the Q-Evolve as well, if you're ever in a side lane, you have that added mobility to try and avoid her if she were to try and jump on towards you. Now, looking towards the other side of mid lane, I think we see some change-ups from Leader on this Aurelia again, but instead of the teleport, it is the Ignite. So looking to maybe go a little bit more aggressive towards this middle lane. He also has Press the Attack, so a little bit less of that extended fight power, but very strong for these quick burst trades. That reads to me that he is looking for very early trades against this Victor, like level 3 I'm talking.
Press the Attack is so good into these like squishy mages like Victor. He obviously gets the shield from his Q, but you can just get so much quick burst on because your Blade Surge applies a mark or Press the Attack. So a stun Q, auto Q is enough to proc that Press the Attack, and you get a massive burst off. So like you said, these kind of level 3 trades are really in favor of Leader with this build. Does mean he doesn't have all that sustain, that extended fighting capability that you do get from the Conqueror with all the healing and all the bonus damage you can slowly ramp up. But it does mean if he's just in a 1v1, should be able to do a lot. But Frennick already hanging around this lane, wants to try and get something onto Leader.
Yeah, unfortunately for Frennick, he, I believe, was spotted over a ward walking through that river. Now, actually, Sakura playing aggressively in this top lane. And again, even though it is Jace versus another ranged matchup, similar to the Vladimir, the Ryze also will struggle to trade against the Jace in the early game. And right now what Frennick is trying to accomplish maybe was trying to split the map to buy space for Sakura to continue a push in the top side. But we'll see Obsess walk into this bottom lane river and now is on a beeline over for his blue buff so he doesn't get that denied from him.
It looks like he should be able to get over there. As Hiva, Neon do have priority in this lane at the moment. The Kai'Sa Fresh unable to really get too much poke down, but there is an all-in potential. There's a lot of damage that can come out if a fresh hook lands. Everybody just pile drives onto that one person. It could be quite dangerous, and you know, Hiva, when he's not on the Morgana, has had some questionable games, but already ganks happening in the bot lane here. You can see Fennec looks to jump in, the hook goes wide. Voidseeker will connect, but good disengage by Misfits to go 2v3 and get out.
Yeah, I believe Hiva was walking over to put down a ward right there, and Jenax, or rather Frennick, was able to get in towards that bottom lane and make that gank happen. Now that's especially good for the bot lane of SK because off of those first 2 waves, Neon had actually built up a 5 CS lead. It was 12 towards 7, and while he still will have an advantage with a big wave pushing in towards him, this gives room for Obsess to sneak into this bottom lane because if the SK bottom lane wants to overstay for this next wave, they have no flash on DOS and he's still
DOS is stepping forward, he gets caught out here, Flay back, they're looking to pin every bit of CC down, the hook comes in, and DOS will fall down eventually. First blood for Hiva, but in comes Frennick. He flashes forward and secures the kill. Now Kedui trying to run away, gets caught out by the E. The permafrost is on, and Hiva forced to flash away as Kedui flashes after him. Hiva makes the great escape, and now Frennick takes a tower shot, and Obsess will disengage a 1-for-1 bot lane.
Very well done there from Kedui to buy time and actually turn that around. He's able to fully proc his pass.
Oh! What? Just
wait a second.
Oh!
That's
okay.
That's 18 HP on a Sejuani. Are we sure Misfits are blue side and SK are red side? Because I'm seeing an inverse of game 1, and that is insane.
Fantastic start here in the bot lane for Kedui on this. Kai'Sa gets 2 kills, has a CS lead of 10 over Neon as well, so gold lead already pretty heavily in favor of him at this 4-minute mark.
Yeah, I'd say a full pickaxe worth of gold is pretty sizable for a Kai'Sa who really relies on those items to get the Q and the E-Evolve. Will be working in towards either the Stormrazor start or the Infinity Edge, while DOS is just sitting in this river looking for Leader to go in.
Leader looking to run away, the gravity field's on, takes a Leader. DOS does have the hook, but jumps away. Great stun by Leader, disengages from that fight. Is going to just Play a little bit further back for the moment, though.
Luckily for the Misfits bottom lane, because Kadui was a little bit delayed on his reset, they were able to push up for a turret plate. We already have a very clear idea of how Frennick wants to path in the early game. Again, after that reset, coming bottom lane to get the Scuttle Crab on the reset, and now again wants to punish the summonerless duo of Misfits, because with this Ira Khan you constantly will be pushing. It does leave you vulnerable.
But Dan going for a trade onto Sakurai, actually coming out on top of that. The Aftershock does buy Dan a little bit of time. Sakurai definitely running away with this lane. And now we look at mid lane. I want to turn my attention towards this because it's been fairly low action so far in this game. Game 1, Leader had a good game with the rotations, but we can actually have a little look at the stat difference between Genax and Leader. We look at the solo kills, the isolated kills here. Leader has 21, Genax is second in the tournament with 7, but look at those isolated deaths, 16-9.
And it's because Leader plays so aggressively. And just to clarify, these are stats up until the semifinal, so it does not include Game 1 of the series, where Leader found yet another solo kill in a 1v2 situation. But that's just what he does, especially on champions like this Aurelia. He always plays to the absolute limits of his champions, and his champion pool, the Zed, the Yasuo, the Aurelia, is all about making these aggressive 1v9 style of plays. He has certainly been the highlight player of this tournament, especially out of that middle lane, and continues to impress game by game.
We'll have to track him into these next stages of the game, as 6-minute mark has been hit. SK ahead 400 gold here over Misfits. Dandan now in this top lane, once again having like a really rough early game. Sakurai gets the Jace, had it consistently as well versus Fnatic. It was either him or Genax. Pick for this team are very happy to be picking up at the moment, but have to see how he's going to fare, because the Ryze wants some time. Once he gets this time, once he gets to stack up that tier, gets the Archangels, that's when the damage really starts to spike on the Ryze.
Yeah, and we've seen Dan have very high impacts on these types of champions that are powerful in the side lane. Now, in this game, while you do have champions for the Misfits like Aurelia and Ryze that are strong in the 1v1s, I think they're much more focused on a team fight approach. They have very good CC, and now 2v2 mid.
They're looking to go on to Genax. Chaos Storm comes out. Leader just dodging away for the moment. The stuns do connect, and Frennick is going to get caught onto as he jumps away. The Ignite ticks down, and Frennick dies. Obsess secures the kill.
Yeah, the red buff going to come in clutch there for Obsess for some extra damage over time to secure that one. Again, it's this early game setup, I think, from Leader, working with Obsess around mid.
Needs to be careful, not going to get caught out here. Almost turns it around onto Obsess. Leader a little bit low on mana, can't actually really go too hard here. Wave will just crash in, and Leader can look to base up, probably build that team out like he did in the last game.
Yeah, and you know, we talk about Leader being the main carry force for Misfits. It's clear with how Obsess plays the game a lot as well. Knowing that Leader wants to be making these flashy plays, Obsess is right there, and they win that 2 versus 2 very early on. I think, again, pointing out the setup Leader went with the Ignite and the press the attack being very important in that very close kill, because Frennick almost made it out had it not been for the Ignite.
All right, well, Frennick now making his face known in this bot lane, has been spotted out now as they look to jump away. Heaver jumps out, Neon comes in, the Killer Instinct out by Kedaway. They look for the dive in, and now Frennick taking damage, but the feathers do not connect. Frennick low. Misfits 2v3 survive.
Yeah, but can they do anything more with Frennick being down on HP? It seems impossible for them to look for this dive. They're trying to find the window before Neon's ultimate came up, but also while his flash was down. They didn't quite hit the mark on the flash. I believe that had just come up moments before, so that is why Neon was able to escape. But now that Frennick is 6 himself, you better believe that he wants to find Neon the next time he has the chance.
You have to keep in mind, though, Heaver only just hit level 5 after the play had happened, so he's away off the quickness as well, and that would have been big to turn that fight. Meanwhile, Dan realm warping forward, looking for Sakurai, just scares him off for the moment. Sakurai just walks away.
That was a pretty ambitious ultimate there, I think, out of Dan.
It was to send a message. That was the point. You're like, I can jump on you at any time.
I'm down 22 CS, man, but you better be scared because I got a jungler up here.
Oh, Obsess now. He's near the mid lane. Once again, really liking this mid lane. Wants to get Leader snowball in the bot lane. It's been rougher here for Misfits. They're down in CS. Neon and Heaver been taken off that Morgana bot lane. But even so, they've done a good job to disengage the constant ganks that have been used onto them here. So definitely have to track what SK can do now that Neon's flash is down, like you were talking about a little bit ago.
Watch this though, Frennick once again towards this bottom side. He's going to use the blast cone to hop on in. I don't believe he's seen on vision, but Obsess and Leader are both considering making their way down towards this lane.
But they got the hook onto one. Heaver jumps out. They try to get the damage onto Kedaway. He jumps in with a knockup. Kedaway low. Heaver also low as he's trying to get the shutdown as Neon secures the kill. Frennick flags and drags to safety, and SK lose one.
The timing on the Grand Entrance interrupting the hook there now.
Oh, Doss, you're in for a world of hurt, my dude. Feather's not going to be enough, but Leader is going to come out. They do land the hook onto one for the moment, and Leader will not be securing that kill as Neon picks it up.
Misfits, they knew exactly what was going down right there, bringing Obsess and Leader with their mid lane priority towards this bottom lane to punish on the minion wave, crashing towards the tower. Now more plates for this duo, and Misfits have done a very good job recovering after that rough early laning phase in this 2 versus 2. Now Neon is right back in the game.
Well, Dan, he might be on the receiving end of a gank here. Tries to put out enough damage to clear out the way for the moment. They try to turn it around. The Chaos Storm into the gravity field. Sakré forced to flash away. Dan avoids all of the damage, and Sakré not going to be able to find that kill as see Dan just clearing out the wave here.
Wait a second. Kadui just got a kill.
Kadui just got a kill indeed. He just killed Obsess.
I would love to see that play again.
Yeah, we'll hopefully get a replay of that. We'll have a look at that in a minute. But Kadui now will get some free time in this bot lane as his jungler picks up the Drake. Our Drake RNG in the final hasn't been too good, but
Doss.
Leader, he might be in for a lot of hurt. Doss just gets caught out, and Heaver secures the kill. Leader taking a lot of tower shots, has to flash to safety. He'll be okay.
We keep missing the starts of these plays. I'm wondering, like, how does this even happen? Doss sitting underneath the tower and Misfits not even giving him a chance to breathe right there. I would actually like to rewind in our heads a little bit and talk about that top lane play from SK because they were able to secure the first turret of the game. This keeps them just about even in gold with Misfits. Before we do that, though, it's Obsess recalling outside of a bush and
I think he was shopping as well.
Just getting blown away.
Looks like he was in the shop. So, gets caught out. Good pick there for Kedaway. Heaver maybe looks to go on to 2 here, but there's a tower nearby. SK don't want to commit.
Look what SK are doing, though. Sakura has actually abandoned top lane after getting that turret, rotated down here towards the bottom side of the map, and Hiva is inside of the jungle. He realizes, wait a second, there's no way out for me. He's just trying to get a cheeky little recall from inside enemy territory.
Looks like he might actually be able to get that off there. Teleporting away. No one's going to be quite close enough unless Sakura can look for a shock blast. Nope. Even makes an escape. Nobody goes down in that bot lane once again. You can see the pings coming out from Obsess. Looking to see if he can find an opening now that he has that ultimate. The wave will be crashing into Sakure's top lane. But no plates are going to be picked up. Dan a little bit too scared here of Sakura.
Yeah, Sakurai can actually just let the plate go down because if no one's in the area, it denies it, and those plates get tankier and tankier the more that do fall. So good on him to let that turret take a little bit of extra damage now. It is interesting to me how the game has panned out because this series so far has been so focused around the bottom lane when all expectations was that it was going to be the solo lane, Sakura for SK, Leader for the side of Misfits. Instead, it is very much the battle of Neon versus Kadui with where these teams are putting their pressure. And because it is Kadui towards the top side of the map, SK can secure this Rift Herald with ease while Neon split pushes bottom lane for the solo turret gold.
Oh, he was going to jump away. The Ghost Blade's even being used here by Sakura. Not going to look to try and Jace onto Misfits as they do make their way out, but the Eye of the Herald gets summoned. 5 members of SK in this mid lane with a minion wave to work
there
with
we
as
go.
well. I'm good at words, I promise. Should be able to get pretty much most of this tower, if not all of it here. Leader doing his best to clear it out, stuns up on multiple members. Watch Dan on the flank. Obsess comes in, throws down that ultimate. The Rift Herald's still up for the moment and Doss is low. They try to get the damage onto Doss as he will go down. Heaver throws out the quickness. The Chaos Storm fries him alive. The Vanguard's edge is there and Genax might just look to turn this. SK disengage in a 1-for-1, but the mid lane turret stands for Misfits.
Misfits are always there to try and punish SK when they push forward because it feels like SK are always the ones making the proactive move, whether it was that looking for a gank in the bottom lane where Misfits come and then punish them, or right there where they pick up the Rift Herald. They get a lot of plates for their effort, but ultimately it is Misfits able to force them back away off the tower.
Just burning Doss's flash, that was it as well, so don't lose too much. No one on the side of Misfits had to flash away to safety, so forced to summon the spells out, forced them low. The plates have now fallen off. So we do look at the gold that is mounted here. SK not being able to pull themselves a massive gold lead ahead, even off the fact that they got first turret blood, even off a few of those picks they've been able to find themselves in. So Misfits funneling a lot of gold onto Neon again. He's been such a facilitator of the lead for Misfits in all of this offline stage. You know, it really feels that Misfits are getting a offline buff here as they made it to the live stage of the finals.
Yeah, this team just continues to improve and improve. Remember, this was a squad that I believe finished 4th during the regular season of the LFL. Everyone considered them underdogs, but they've fed off of that energy and been able to turn things around here in EU Masters, coming all the way from the play-in stage to winning Game 1 of the Grand Finals. Now they find themselves at the 15-minute mark with another lead, a much slimmer one than in the first match of these two teams, but certainly in a good position now because their composition continues to scale up and has such a strong presence in the 5v5.
And I'm really glad you bring up the gold lead at 15 minutes because we actually do have team stats of both of these teams to see how they fare at that 15-minute mark. You can see Misfits normally ahead at 15 minutes. They also play for a faster game time than SK.
Yeah, they are very driven by their solo lanes and building early leads within their lanes. You know, Leader is always finding the solo kills, as we mentioned, but Dandan too, a lot of the gold lead comes purely from him. I think he averages plus, 15 CS roughly at 15 minutes. He really does put a lot of work in the 1v1, so it is interesting to see a different style from this team going up against SK, where it is not about the split push on Dandan and is much more about the other side of the map for them.
And I think if you do look at their group stages, their play-in stages, because you've got to remember both of these teams are play-in teams as well. They've run the whole gauntlet of the tournament. Dandan was the reason that Misfits were picking up some of these wins alongside Leader, because Neon and Hiva, I mean, they kind of hinted some of their games. I think it's fair to say that Taliyah Pantheon was pretty turbo boosted.
They did what they needed to do. They got a win, Hitbrain.
But, man, these two have stepped up. All of the questions I had about Hiva and Neon have just been wiped clean. These guys have proven me wrong. They've proven a lot of the critics wrong in these final stages of the tournament. As Hiva, see, he's dodging hooks now. If this was groups, that would have hit and he would have died.
It's all coming together now for the Misfits, and they're the ones trying to jockey for position now around this middle lane because Drake is up, and I think both teams are sort of itching to find a fight. Kadui has 4 kills on this Kai'Sa. Misfits have a strong composition for the team fight as well, so even though it is a Cloud Drake, I almost feel like both teams are looking for any excuse possible to start off a fight.
I mean, double Cloud is really nice for either team. Like SK, if they can get that double Cloud, it means they're going to be so quick around the map. They get that in-combat movement speed as well to work with. But in comes Hiva, throws the quickness down. Cutaway jumps into the backline. They try to do the damage, but Leader misses out of the Vanguard's edge. He has to flash over the wall. But watch Neon. They've managed to pick up Frennick. Obsess is low, and he's next up on the menu as the Caffeine Rain secures the kill. Dandan is low, and Sakurai is on the hunt for blood.
The initial engage from Hiva was not able to 5 all members. He only got the front line, and then Leader dove in, got blown up immediately. It is SK that absolutely smashed in the fight.
And even with that team fight win, the gold is still dead even. It's still neck and neck between both of these teams. This turret should be enough to pull themselves ahead as JetX will be able to get the Lantern to safety. Neon just forced to clear out the wave.
And while the gold is even, SK have it exactly where it needs to be. Now 5 kills on towards Kadui, going to be very close to finishing off that Ginsu's Rage Blade. Sakura has a big lead in the top lane as well, so this team was able to avoid the initial engage of Misfits, and with a split fight, Misfits were not able to focus down and focus fire onto one member to actually win out in any sort of front to back.
And I think hopefully we get to have a little look at that fight again, because it looks to me like Misfits were maybe caught off a little guard there. They didn't, it felt like Hiva jumped in, and then everyone, oh, we're fighting. So they all just kind of barreled in and started throwing.
It was definitely them that started the fight, but it was not the Misfits team. It was just Hiva, and after he realized he missed the initial combo with the CC coming in from the quickness, he tried to back out, but then the rest of the team had to move all their members in to try and go to damage control. See this again, he only hits towards Frennick, and then instantly out of the fight. Leader now misses the ultimate, is zoned. Neon can't touch anyone in the backline because this fight was just in such an awkward position for Misfits, so SK come out very, very clean.
I mean, Dandan and Neon were clearing out the wave that was being pushed into their turret when the fight started, so...
That's a lot of Misfits damage.
That is a lot of damage, as we can now see SK just clearing out these waves, pushing in. They've now got themselves their gold lead, trying to pull ahead for the moment. This mid lane turret is being a real problem for Misfits. They want to take this down because that's when they can start that 1-3-1 up again, but they want to be playing at the moment, but... With losing that team fight, we're losing double Cloud Drakes. They know that SK are going to be fast around the map to catch them off guard. And Dandan, once again, having a really rough time into Sakurai. I said it in the last game. but I need to kind of emphasize that Sakurai is definitely one of the best top laners in this tournament.
I think he is hands down the best top laner in this tournament. You know, he picks the champions that win lane, but then he puts up massive, massive performances, very big numbers. And this was a matchup that I think was going to be very high, but with the way these teams have drafted, it is just going to be Sakura favored. You know, no one expects DanDan to be able to match the Jace in the lane. His job is solely to farm up as best he can, not to die to any sort of jungle pressure coming through from Fennec, and he's been doing an alright job of that. But you need the rest of the team to step up to carry you to the point where you're a 3 or 4 item rise and can terrorize SK in the team fights. And right now, with how the way it's going, it is close enough that they can do that, but these fights will become so crucial, or if Misfits lose 1 or 2 with the Baron on the map now, the game could spiral out of control.
All right, well, that rapid fire cannon's now been picked up for Neon, so it has a bit of additional range to work with. Once they get that Infinity Edge, that's when you really, really start to blow up as the Xayah. But 2 items on Kedaway, got the Storm Razor, got the Guinsoo, so gone for the early spiking build here on this Kai'Sa, which means Kedaway is set up for success for the moment. We'll have to see where the next fight is going to take place, what the next big objective for these teams are, because if you look around the Baron Pit, Misfits currently have vision control there. They are playing for that side of the map. Lots of pink wards defensively and aggressively placed into SK's jungle. Dawson needs to be a little careful. Leader might just try to zone him away.
And we know that even though SK won the last team fight, I think compositionally, Misfits are still stronger in the 5 versus 5, and that's why when they move together as a 4-man unit to put down Vision, SK are not currently looking to contest them. SK would much rather look to play off of a good hook from DOS into bursting one target down than to just sending Fennec into the fray, starting off the big 5v5. That is really not what SK are trying to look for. So right now we see a little bit more play around the side lane, where about a minute ago, Fennec was pressuring down alongside Sakura. As soon as Sakura pushes in, that's when you'll see him rotate up towards this mid lane, and SK can maybe try to catch Misfits out of position or on rotation.
You can see very defensive rotation by DanDan because he's aware of that, heading the longest route possible because he doesn't want to get caught out by these SK members. Leader playing just beyond that halfway mark in the top lane, doesn't want to overextend. Misfits know the situation there, and they're over at the moment. SK do have the advantage on these rotations, have the ability to find these picks. So we need to talk about what Misfits need to do to pull this back, because it's not as over as it was in the last game.
I mean, they're down 700
SK.
gold, right?
Yeah, they're really
it's very
not down.
comfortable. Ultimately, I think Misfits are fine just stalling out a little bit more. I think, especially for DanDan in the top lane, he just needs more items. For Neon as well, should be finishing up the Infinity Edge right after this. So in a couple minutes, we'll have that at 3 items. This Xayah will be very, very strong coming into the team fights, and ultimately I think their best bet is to wait a few more minutes, play around a big objective like the Baron, get the vision control, which they've been doing a good job of, and then look for the 5 versus 5. I don't think it's really in favor of SK right now. It's just about dead even.
Obsess hanging about. The waves are slowly, the wards, are slowly getting killed out by SK as Obsess jumps over the wall, actually catches it onto one. They get the charm in and the stun to boot. Leader finds the pick on the Fennec, and that was what Misfits needed.
And it's a big disaster losing your jungler too around the Baron. Kadui playing very aggressive, has the E evolve, so with the invisibility can look to get down more damage in these fights, but it's so hard without Jarvan.
Did have to use that heal. DanDan's low. They go in onto one and they just blow DOS up. Leader throws out the Vanguard's edge, and Kedaway is going to be minced through by Leader. Sakurai forced to flash away. The Chaos Storm will cook Leader alive, and Misfits will crack the turret. The HP bars are so low, and Genax and Sakurai are hungry for the kills. As Obsess taking a lot of damage. The feathers have gone down. They can't slow Obsess running out. They try to get some more damage out by Sakurai. He has taken to the skies. Genax throws out the laser, gets re-engaged onto his health bar is low, flashes away, goes golden for the moment, and Misfits use everything to escape 2 members of SK.
Misfits definitely won the fight, but you can see how powerful Sakura and Genax are at the moment, running down this Misfit squad who had been taken low during the turret dive. This game is still so tense, but it is Misfits finding the mark with the initial engage. It's Leader diving underneath the tower, and now Misfits have the gold lead for themselves.
Well, they're going to be able to clear up this Cloud Ocean Drake as SK remain in control of these neutral objectives this way. The gold lead, once again, dead even. This game rests on a knife's edge between them. Misfits desperately trying to crack open this mid lane turret. As one good push will be all they need to knock that over. Neon can just walk up and auto-attack it once. It will crumble, and the gold will start to shift more in favor of Misfits as they've clawed 200 gold ahead.
And right now, Dandan, not caring about the bottom lane, moving immediately over towards this Baron. They know that if they can look for another team fight, they are in a comfortable position for it, trying to own the vision around this Baron, while bottom wave is basically frozen neutral in that position. So 5v5 in the next minute or so is not out of the realms of possibility, as both teams, again, feel super, super confident. But the way the game has been going, I think that Misfits are very, very comfortable at the moment in the front to back. SK need to divide and conquer in the fights, I think.
Good lantern by DOS to make sure Hiva can't jump onto Frennick and kill him. Hook goes a little bit wide. A turret has finally fallen down there for Misfits. Neon building towards that Infinity Edge, not quite there though.
Yeah, and Sakurai's pushing in this bottom lane. I think Misfits know that Dandan isn't great at answering. He can clear the minion waves currently, but Sakurai is approaching the flame horizon in this Jace versus Ryze matchup. The hope is that he can eventually try to hit these towers, but the way we have seen this game go is that, again, with this Jace pick, it's not enough to push bottom lane and hit towers, because Misfits have the ability to move around the map to threaten the collapse, and it puts SK in a frustrating position, similar to the last game where Sakurai is certainly winning the side lane matchup, but not hard enough, and without the pressure of his team controlling mid lane, he doesn't have the ability to continue that push and actually make much headway when it comes to taking down towers, to threatening an inhibitor, and it takes a lot of the pressure away from Misfits.
And even closing on that Flame Horizon, he just can't deal with the likes of Neon, who now has 3 items we've been hitting on for a while. You can see a QSS has been picked up by Kedui. Wants that defensive options, because this is the power of this 2-item Kai'Sa build. Once you do get those 2 items, you can afford to go more defensive. But it looks like they're looking for a pick here onto Frennick. Does dodge away the flag and drag to safety. His leader's going to take a little bit of poke from the Baron, but he's fairly healthy. Dandan getting engaged onto by Sakurai. Ooh.
Very close down there. Sakurai doesn't have the flash, though, so he doesn't feel comfortable diving under the tower, knowing Dandan has his own, but that was actually the Seraph's Embrace being used by Dandan and Frennick.
Frennick does find himself a 2-man Cataclysm. The hook goes wide into the Feather Storm. Hiva looking for the charm of the 3 members. Gets toasted down by the old D. And SK find themselves one.
Here goes Kedui.
Jumps into the fray. Instantly rooted up. Rooted up again by the Feathers as JJax chasing for the kill. In comes Leader with that Vanguard's Edge. He's looking for the stun onto 2. He does find it, and the Vanguard's Edge comes down. Now Neon trying to poke the damage out. He turns it around. Leader is in the peaks of everyone. A double kill has been picked up for JJax. A stun does not quite connect, and JJax gets a triple kill.
Hiva again trying to find the engagement, but SK are able to turn and are able to punish. They lose Frennick in the fight, but it does not matter because all the damage dealers survive, and the Baron is SK's.
The Baron is theirs indeed. Looks like the Lovers duo are not going to go deal with this, and SK will take this Baron in game 2. Slowly.
They take it slowly, but they take it in the end. Boom.
There it is. There it is. Dragon's not up for a minute 30. They have plenty of time to reset and go for that. What Drake's the next one? Make a guess.
Mountain.
Mountain. Observer. Show us the Drake. Oh, let's
show us the fight. Let's look at the fight here first.
Instead.
So this is important because right now Misfits are trying to kite back for Leader, but watch this. The E from Leader does not connect. Then he uses the Q, so he's out of that spell. He can't actually reset, so he gets the kill on towards Frennick, but knowing Kedui is full HP, Sakurai TPs into the fight as well. There is no chance for them.
Oh, no.
That's a kill.
Dip, and the shutdown onto Neon. Apparently the next Drake is a Mountain Drake. Ocean, I was lied to.
I guess Mountain Drake. But this is actually really huge for Misfits because honestly, SK had just gotten the Baron. They got on to 3 members, I believe. Sakura was one of those members, and even then, just having the 45-second death timer on this split push, Jace absorbs a lot of the pressure Misfits were going to be facing because not only is it that time off the Baron buff removed, but also Jace is the split pusher. If he was ever going to get a tower in a side lane, it was with this buff, so losing that is a massive blow to SK's tempo as they were trying to push this game along and get a much larger advantage.
And now with this, Misfits hanging around. JJax gets jumped onto the charm. They throw all of the CC down, and JJax gets killed out by the Feathers. A hook onto him though, and DOS turns it around. A 1-for-1 trade in the bot lane.
Yeah, Obsess gonna go down there, but it's well worth it for JJax. Hiva sat in that bush for so long. JJax was like, there's no way someone's here. He's actually playing a little timidly, but Hiva was able to find the mark, and now Dragon should be an easy pickup for Misfits.
Does stop SK from getting too many dragons. Also works towards that Elder Drake win condition. So our Drake RNG has not been too good. Sakurai now looking for something onto Dandan. Does have that flash. Realm Warp away to safety. Can't stop him and does take a shock blast on the tail end of the warp.
Yeah, Dan knew as soon as Sakurai used the knockback on the melee form of Jace that he would not be able to stop the Realm Warp. So playing a little bit aggressively here is Dan, but we can see that even 2 items on this Rise, you're still not going to beat the Jace. It is, I don't think you are going to beat the Jace in a side lane. You know, once you finish off the Rabadons, maybe you have a better chance, but it's a 3,000 gold lead. That's a full item that Sakurai is always going to have over Dan.
I mean, maybe if we see this Righteous Glory Rise we've seen a little bit of, but normally you've built that second.
Yeah, and if you build the Righteous Glory, like that's yes, you have some survivability, but in terms of actual 1v1 power, that is not the build to try and contest a Jace.
All right, quickness and flash. Well, quickness is up, flash not up for Heave at the moment. Big wave getting pushed in here. So Obsessed stepping forward, does have his ultimate leader on that flank as well. All of the members of Misfits are starting to make a show in this mid lane. Don't want to lose this turret, don't want to give up this objective. So lasers are coming down, Neon will clear that out. Sakurai looking just for a bit of poke, does find it onto 1. They do stop the siege for the moment.
Yeah, I think Misfits have the tools to stop themselves from losing too much off this Baron buff. Maybe this inner tower gets knocked down, but without the threat of a split push being a viable option for SK, the best chance for them is to find a fight around this objective falling, which they don't seem to be looking for at the moment.
Here's a redemption to top themselves up for the moment. Heaver closing in on that flash. Leader steps forward, clears out the way for the Blade Surge. Hook comes out by Doskers a little bit wide. Misfits now just forcing SK up.
Yeah, watch Frennick and Doss on the side, the primary engage tools of SK. They want the fight, here we go.
Cataclysm lands onto 3, into the Featherstorm. They're trying to get the damage down. Everybody gets caught by the Blade Caller, and the fight has gone awry. Misfits already find themselves 1. Frennick is low, and you can see Neon topped up on HP as he finds himself a double kill. Kenway is low. They go for more. A flayback on the 2, and now they're looking to turn it around. Neon can't chase for more. The health bars are low, and Obsessed jumps away from everything, and Misfits find 2.
Yeah, they find 2, only losing leader in the process, but the health bars are so low. These fights so incredibly tense, but it was Neon able to flash away from the initial engage from Frennick that meant Misfits won out in that 5 versus 5. If Neon lives and is able to continue pumping out those auto attacks, Misfits are in a great spot.
The bases are coming through with that PD. He just has so much damage. Buys himself a BF sword as well. Building most likely towards the GA. Maybe a Bloodthirster for a little bit of life steal.
Hey, that's a 100% crit chance. I don't care what that next item is. He is so strong here. But you can see he uses the ultimate, and it stops the team fight right there. Nothing actually happened after that.
Yeah, didn't get a double kill or anything.
Nope. That wasn't important.
That was a freeze throw moment. So I wonder how you wonder how I got in this situation. And then the base starts.
And then you wake up like 2 minutes later, like, what happened?
How is Neon 6-1? What happened?
He's almost got 6 items.
But, I mean, we're still even on gold. We are 32 minutes into this game, even on gold. Both of the AD carries in a position to run away with this fight. Both of these mid laners in a position to run away with these fights. As Jenax gets caught, forced to use the cleanse instantly out. And Obsessed doesn't lose really much for it apart from his ulti.
Yeah, unless SK make a play on the Baron immediately when that spawns, Obsessed will be able to have that Glacial Prison back up and ready to go for. And because he uses that spell, it's now SK with control over this middle lane. The last Baron was not enough for SK to push this game forward. You know, they won a crucial team fight around that objective, but a big pick for Misfits stalled this game out. Now SK need to do that one more time if they want to push this along. They're actually just going right in.
He goes in with the quickness over the wall. Neon and Leader jump in. The Vanguard's edge connects onto 2. The shutdown gets picked up. Sakurai goes golden. Leader in the midst of everyone as the double kill gets picked up by Neon. Leader goes golden, and in the Realm Warp as they look for the chase, Neon, Heaver and Dan launch into the fray. The knockout comes through. A triple kill for Neon. Kenui flashes forward, uses the killer instinct defensively, and makes his way out.
Neon is the man that just will not die, dashing the hopes of SK in this game. He's able to survive time after time after time, sitting at 9 kills in this match, and at 33 minutes in, Misfits will finally break the base.
Baron means nothing to this team because they just want your base, they want your inhibitor. They've got a wave to work with. The death timers are still very, very long. Frennick gets in, they do get the damage down. The knock-up Leader takes down Kenui, and it looks like Misfits with this throw out the Featherstorm. A hook lands onto 1, but it's not enough. The Nexus has been laid bare, and Misfits go 2-0 in the series.
An incredibly close game between these two squads, but it came down to one crucial team fight and one crucial player. Neon continues to impress in this series, in this stage. Oh my word, the man's absolutely on fire.
Neon has stepped up so hard. He's had big boots to fill following the likes of DanDan, following the likes of Leader, but he is showing up in this series, and this puts Misfits from the LFL on match point in this best of 5.
Just one more win, and they're your champions. This team, the underdog story is absolutely unreal. No one expected them to win in France. They didn't. They had to fight through the play-in stage here at the European Masters, and they've made it all the way to be one game away from the trophy being theirs.
I mean, everybody said LDLC are the French team. LDLC, they didn't even make it out of groups. It was all about Misfits. You made it through play-ins, made it through the group stages, and man, they have been on a phenomenal rise, but they still have one more game to go. So we're going to cut to a quick break, and when we're back with Game 3 of the series to see if Misfits can close out or SK could hold on.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Misfits Premier are one game away from 3-0ing SK Gaming, but let's have a quick look at what the difference is. They come into this as underdogs, and why are they looking so damn good now? And I can give you one name, that is Hiva. This guy has been insane. He's been absolutely on point with most of his engages. This is just from the last game. He goes out, he comes back in, and just absolutely nails every single engage he's looking for as well. We see it here as well. The EQ from the Jarvan's a little bit unfortunate, but it's Hiva running back on top of this. And the big thing that we were just saying coming into this, why this bot lane was seen as a bit of a weakness for the side of Misfits, is that Hiva was kind of going in face first, not really thinking about it, but he's been calculated, he's been looking for every kind of engage. You see it here, they know they have the vision, they know they can go on top of it with the rest of the team. It's absolutely crazy how they're able to keep going with this, and it just sets up the rest of Misfits for all they really can do. And it's really become an issue for SK as well. One of the big things I want to say is right here. He waits in that bush for a good 30 seconds just to try and get that kill onto Victor, which delays the Baron buff and absolutely everything around it as well. So it's a really, really good way for them to kind of come into this. And Hiva, I've got to give the man props, has really stepped up. But we're going to send it back to Excounter on the desk to break down the game 3.
Yes, thank you, Ashin. Welcome back to the analyst desk there. And we were kind of looking at Hiva, specifically the bot lane again, having a great performance. I think it would be unfair not to mention Neon as well, guys. He has had a great performance too. The rest of Misfits also doing very well. Dan holding his own versus Sakura. No solo laner advantages really going and over the board. What's going on?
I mean, I'm just collecting these now. Simple stuff, really. 2 wins so far. It's just going to keep counting by the look of things. Two
begets for 2 wins?
Yep.
Okay. Well, Misfits are definitely in control in this series. A lot of us thought SK would be sort of stepping up to the plate. It looks like those LAN nerves, maybe offline performances in the final again, potentially plaguing SK. Their bot lane has not looked comfortable at all in this series.
Yeah, I think
what a story this would be, though.
Go on.
You're known as the LAN chokers. You're sucking off Lion. And then EU Masters, reverse sweep. How's that sound? Is that in the script somewhere? Do we have a copy of the script anywhere?
No, I
don't have it on hand, but
yeah.
I think that would be a really cool story.
To clarify as well, especially some of the points that BP was talking about, I think when Hiva was making the engages, that was what helped carry them when those engages were good. When they were bad, that's why those team fights in that game, and that game 2 in general, looked a lot closer. Because the fact is, not all of them were good.
No, not all of them were good. One of the major issues was that I think when Misfits were, also rather SK were looking for those fights, they just didn't have the burst damage to get through that front line, and Neon was never touched on that backside of the team fights, and he essentially was left on an island and just be able to just throw auto attack after auto attack. No one ever managed to get onto to Neon, and he was just constantly pressuring from the backline. I think there has to be a massive change in attitude and performance from that bot side of the map for SK coming into this next game. That draft maybe has to focus around comfort for them. They have to be put onto something where they feel they can go toe-to-toe, because even in this game, even with the pressure from Frenic, they were still down in CS quite considerably to Neon and Hiva.
I think that's what's kind of scary though for me for SK, is that felt like a very SK comfort draft. You know, you had the Jace on the top side, you had the Jarvan, even in that bot lane with DOS on Thresh, and it's just like, for me, what I'm really surprised at, and is a pleasant surprise really from Misfits especially, is when you were describing the point before about how we're talking about you're not able to get to the backline, the engages were a bit so-so and stuff. We're describing team fights, right? That's not really been Misfits' MO the entirety of the EU Masters, but they've adapted to it as the police cars. Oh no, it's not police cars, it's the audience. We've seen Misfits.
Bit worried there, are you?
Pick up that. Wait, I've got to go. We've seen them. Nah, but this is it, right? Misfits have evolved, they've adapted, and they're looking at game point.
Yeah, they look like every part of their game is very strong right now. They can 1-3-1, they can group up and team fight when they need. And I think, yeah, a big driver behind that has been the performance from Neon and Hiva. But I can't move away from Upsets and Leader and Dan. Leader has done what Leader's done all tournament, been consistently good. Couple of interesting ultimates, especially that one around the middle river, but apart from that, I mean, Leader has been brilliant.
Fact is, offline does have some pressure to it, and as you said, they were able to recover from that, and I think that's the big thing for Misfits here throughout this series so far, at the very least.
Looks like the draft going again the way of that flexible rise, which we assume goes to Dan. SK just going to respond with the Jace. And look, I think Jace has, consistently generated huge advantages for Sakura on the top side of the map. It definitely hasn't been an issue for them, and they're going to repeat that draft from game 2 with the Jarvan lock-in for Frenic. Misfits probably aren't going to change things up.
They will not do that.
I mean, I have heard that that Leader was playing Azir in scrims, but I think the Irelia comes through, very similar draft. Genax then picks up the Azir before the second ban phase, and they are going to take that over for them. And now again, we have a bot lane focused draft coming through once more.
Yeah, I actually think Genax really stepped up in that game too as well. He was one of the major carries when the fights were going SK's way. So I think maybe moving back towards that Azir, which was banned away in the second rotation by Misfits in the previous game too, when the draft looked so similar, makes sense here.
Yeah, Azir is picked specifically to deal with Leader on this Irelia. Last draft, they went with the Thresh to get DOS on that comfort. I wouldn't be surprised to see Misfits ban that one out so that he can't, SK can't have their cake and eat it too.
Yeah, and there's obviously a couple of other supports available. Maybe we see the Galio ban again. Maybe we see the Rakan ban this time, because they're actually going to ban Thresh against themselves.
They're going to lock Rakan here then, try to get the Xayah Rakan for
Okay, well, will Misfits respond and take the Rakan away in this particular segment, or are they going to go for something like the Kai'Sa? Maybe more emphasis on DOS having a sort of a support that sort of works for him here.
We'll see when this last ban gets locked in right here, whether they do try and attack that Xayah Rakan, because I think if you have that, suddenly you've got like 3 really strong lanes here, specifically in those side lanes in Sakura with that Jace, or you just go Galio, that works too.
So do you just expect a Xayah Rakan to come out from Misfits and just say, hey, let's run exactly the same composition? It worked.
It really wouldn't surprise me.
What do you think about the Rakan matchup into the Galio, though? I mean, that's going to change things up ever so slightly. I mean, technically the Thresh was supposed to be good, right? So
I think it could change it up as well, especially depending on what AD carry they follow it up with. So I'm waiting to see how that comes through. You could even follow it up with something that can generate a bit more pressure. Even the Ezreal might be able to play a bit further back from it.
The Alistar comes through here for Hiva, one of the champions we've seen him play a lot, especially during the play-in stage. We saw quite a lot of Alistar play from Hiva himself, and it looks like we're going to see... I'm not going to say it just yet, there's plenty of options on the table. I was expecting the Lucian lock-in, we'll have to see from Misfits. Going to go maybe sort of, if they pick the Sivir here, it gives them a really solid teamfight composition too if they want to group up and teamfight.
It's actually quite similar to the last draft in a sense where you have that hard engaged champion on Hiva with the Alistar.
It's going to be the Ezreal for Neon. Okay, so that sort of big mid-game power spike AD carry coming out for Neon in the bottom side of the map, and we'll wait to see what SK respond with.
I was going to say, the one thing this could change is maybe we see Kedui, I was going to say maybe go for something like the Sivir, try to look for priority. It's not something they're going to push for here.
Is going to be the Tristana instead. Gentlemen, this could be the last game for SK. They have to fight a whole reverse sweep to keep themselves and keep their dreams of winning the European Masters alive. Gentlemen, in this countdown, I want you to talk to me about these compositions. I'll start with you. Adequately dressed as usual for Misfits, Celtic.
Yeah, I think the big thing is they're once again going to be able to team fight quite well, because this comp is extremely similar, right? Fact is, you're only changing out the Xayah Rakan for Ezreal Alistar. Alistar fills the exact same role as the Rakan here. Ezreal, yes, it's more consistent single target damage. Will lose a little bit of your AoE, but not the biggest worry. You still have the same win conditions available.
And Foxy, looking over the side of SK Gaming.
Again, I think it's kind of similar to what we were seeing in the last game as well. I think when you have Fennec on this good early game jungler, I want to see, last game he played a lot towards the bot side in that early game. We'll see whether he decides to kind of punish the Ryze and really get Sakurai ahead, because we all know how good Sakurai is. But again, kind of similar things, and I'm really looking forward to see how this goes. If the game goes like 3 or 4 items, how these team fights shape up.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to throw it over to our casters, Hiprain and Enda.
Thank you very much, guys, over on the desk. Obviously, Celtic looking fashionable as ever.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
Wonderful get-up, but man, this is it for Misfits. If they can win this game, they close out, they become the next European Masters. But SK, like Scoundrel said, have to now go for the reverse sweep. They need to win 3 games back-to-back if they can have any hopes of making it into the championship title.
I mean, it's do or die for them now. You can't make any mistakes. Mistakes that have plagued them throughout this series must be fixed coming into this game 3. And, you know, the desk said it, it's very similar drafts, but SK need to make some key changes if they want to come out on top and keep their hopes of a title alive.
Well, we take to the rift for the 3rd time today. Leader once again gets his hands on that Aurelia. Neon taking away Kedui's Ezreal, which he played so much in the games versus Fnatic, which he used to stomp the UK out of the European Masters. See if Neon can hit Kedui back just as hard as Kedui hit Fnatic.
Yeah, it's going to be important for him. Now, Leader with the E level 1 will get jumped on, but shouldn't be any more follow-up now from SK. And I do want to talk a bit about Fennec, because I think Fennec needs to generate more pressure for his team in this game. Because the problem for SK is that early on, like last game, we saw Fennec gank bot lane, and it was successful. But then he goes bot lane again around the 8-9 minute mark, and he makes a play, but Obsess and Leader read him. They're able to collapse down onto him. And the problem for SK has been that they've never really had mid lane priority throughout this series, because Jenax is always going for scaling. It's not that he's playing it badly, he's just getting a matchup that doesn't allow him to provide pressure. So for me, I need to see Fennec around mid lane first so they can get pressure and then use that to convert it into some bot lane fights.
And when I look at the history of Heather as a player, this Alistar was always a question mark champion, always one that, you know, sometimes we'd be a little nervous about him picking up. So with a massive growth as a player, as this Misfits bot lane has gone, we'll have to see whether or not they're going to continue. And if he'll actually kind of show off on this champion, but maybe we had a little bit of questions about.
Maybe just a few. Now, for Fennec, I'm actually eyeing him right now. Clearing out the red buff and immediately pathing over towards Misfits' own red buff. I believe he was spotted on a ward walking in. That's why Obsess is actually pathing all the way down. He avoids Fennec and is now going to be jumping on towards his Krug camp. Now, this won't give him level 3. He needs one more camp after it, but he knows he loses this early matchup and will be sacrificing this red.
Yeah, at least Obsess does at least pick up his Krugs here. Just clearing out the wave as Fennec then heads back into his side of the map. See the pushes in favor to the bot lane of SK. We did see this in the last game.
Yeah, notice what Fennec is doing, though. He's still actually on the invade, taking away all the small raptors currently. Obsess is still only level 2, and I believe Fennec, once he clears this, that'll only be 3 camps, so he'll still be level 2, but on the Jarvan, it doesn't even matter. He's going to be able to control the bottom side of the jungle and buy space for his bottom lane, which is pushing in. Now he walks towards this mid lane, trying to put down some pressure on Leader.
Well, Leader's getting jumped onto here. Fennec trying to see if he can turn it around. Leader jumps in with that press the attack. Doesn't have the sustain from the Conqueror. Gonna be able to make his way out.
I like the moves now from Fennec, putting down some early pressure in mid lane like I asked for. Now, he is dangerously low on mana, but because he stole some experience as those minions died in the mid lane, he does tick over to level 3. And Obsess knows he can't contest. Instead, Obsess is walking down towards the bottom side of the map. He says, I can trade Scuttle for Scuttle, and if Fennec stays topside, then Obsess can walk into the blue buff. But there's so many mind games going on between these two junglers, because again, Fennec walks straight through mid lane, over the vision. He wants to deny Obsess at all costs.
He's heading back towards there. You can see Leader looking to jump onto Fennec. The flag and drag is available. Roots him up with the permafrost. The stun's gonna come down as Leader flashes over the wall and secures first blood.
All right, leave it to Leader to get a kill in that situation. Preempting the flash, now another fight.
They're jumping in. Neon comes in, they give themselves a headbutt and pulls him back. The ignite goes onto DOS, stacking up all of those permafrost, and DOS looks to try and make the great escape, but they flash in forward. DOS running towards his tower as fast as he physically can. Takes the Q to the face. The taunt comes down, and Neon will secure the kill.
Misfits with 2 kills in the first 4 minutes of play. This is match point for the French representative, and they are off to a flying start against SK, who tried to play proactive early. Fennec was looking to make moves around that middle lane, but first it's Leader that punishes, and then Misfits bottom lane were able to collapse and get the kill.
And you have to question if this is getting into SK's head. They've lost 2 games in a row. The first one was an absolute slacking. The second one, it was close, but Misfits even came out on top after falling behind in the gold lead. Now, 4 minutes into the game, you're looking at a 2-0 Misfits, and those kills are on Neon, who has been one of the main carries in this offline stage of the tournament, and Leader, one of the biggest carries and one of the most hyped up players in this tournament.
But watch Fennec, he knows the flashes are down. This is SK's chance. With the wave pushing in, he's gonna try and catch Neon, but he has the arcane shift.
He does have that shift holding fine. He actually just goes aggressive on a Fennec here.
Unbelievable.
Neon just unshakable on this Ezreal.
And that was the only chance Fennec was going to have. I think he actually walked over so many wards as well. They know he hasn't gone back into his own jungle, so Neon playing very hesitantly around this area until Fennec is spotted on a total of 4 wards. Some might say they're a bit redundant, but they were used chasing down DOS for that first blood, and they come up big because now it buys time for Obsess to steal away camp.
I wouldn't say redundant, to be fair, mate. I think they spotted Fennec heading back into his jungle. They now know that they can continue to play aggressive in that lane. As we do take stock of where the game is at 5 minutes, JerAx being forced away a little bit here by Leader. The CS lead equal in the mid lane, but with that kill, Leader has pulled himself ahead of JerAx. And look at Obsess here, looking around, seeing if he can find something in this mid lane. Wants to get Leader snowballing.
Yeah, he knows with Leader ticking over towards level 6, there's maybe a play that can be made. There's also a big minion wave as well, so Fennec potentially was looking to punish as Leader looked to push out this minion wave. But, I mean, the game feels like it shifted so entirely because Fennec was playing very, very proactively, especially around the early invades, trying to secure both Scuttle Crabs and find those early fights. Now, it is Obsess who has taken the first solo Scuttle spawn of the game. Once again, Leader pushes out mid lane, just like he has all series, and has moved up towards the top lane to potentially make a play. Now, Misfits will call that play off, but Fennec has been able to sneak in towards this top lane. But if he was going to stay much longer, it would be a very long investment for little to no reward, because the way DanDan's played this entire series is just very, very safely.
And I think that's actually like a really big props to DanDan, because we know him as a player, as a split pusher, as one of these primary carries for Misfits. He's just kind of been put on sacrifice duty here, just losing lane to Sakré, but not losing the game to Sakré. That's the key thing. While he's been down, almost getting Flame Horizoned every game, he hasn't really given too much up over to Sakré. He hasn't been solo killed out by Sakré. He's just done his job to facilitate the team to really pop off.
Yeah, he's just farmed waves and tried to hold on to his own turrets for as long as possible. And to his credit, Sakré has not been able to make a significant enough advantage to win his team the game, because in a side lane, he is unable to ever crack that inner turret. That's been something that's really stopped SK from doing all that much, you know, regardless of how well Sakré is playing as an individual, you need more.
Onto Hiba. They're going to throw a taunt out. Neon dodges away for the moment. In comes Fennec. Good interrupts, as you can see. Neon's dodging away. Hiba is going to go down. The teleporter coming in, and Obsess now chasing with a chilling smite down. They flash forward, and Obsess secures the kill. The root connects onto Fennec. He's next up down, and Misfits find 2.
And how do you love to be DanDan now? He teleports in towards the bottom lane, uses his flash as well, but gets a kill to get some clutch gold for his team. Misfits once again are able to punish Fennec moving around this bottom lane. They've done it so consistently throughout this series, and it's really what has put them in such a dominant position so far.
Well, the True Shot Barrage will at least stop too many plates from going down, but Sakré does pick up 2 plates in that lane. Looks for the stun here on to Leader. They're just going to step away. Genax actually coming out on the better end of this trade now.
Yeah, Genex was able to sidestep the flawless duet coming through from Leader, and if that does not connect, the trades become really dodgy for Aurelia without that Q reset.
Heaver, Fanside DOS actually looks to get taunted up here for the moment. Genax now got the Sand Soldiers to work with. Heaver just taxis away on a minion. He's going to be okay.
He's going to be all right. Now, do you think it's worth scoping in on that top lane one more time? Because even though it was Dandan that TP'd bot lane and got the kill, he lost a lot of minions and 3 turret plates as well. I'd be curious to see what the gold difference is between Sakura and Dandan. Yeah, that's 800 gold up top lane. It's what we expect of this player. And for SK's last hope, you know, they must win this game, the next, and the one after. Sakura is the player that is in a good position now for his team to potentially give SK fans hope.
And it's actually kind of like, it's that scary thing about the Gold Lead, because the Gold Lead itself, only 1,000 ahead for Misfits, but a big chunk of what's keeping SK relevant is Sakurai on that Jace. 2 games in a row, look good, but he hasn't really been able to do anything with it. That's where our questions start to come. They're putting a lot of priority on that pick, but Frennick hanging around this bot lane.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is Sakura is building these advantages without jungle attention from Frennick. It allows them to make these plays.
2-man taunt into the flash. Neon jumps away as he's flashing out. The charge is on. They send him packing, and a kill for Kirui.
That's excellent. Frennick waiting in the brush. DOS finds the engage with the flash forward. But as I was saying, Frennick is allowed to spend 100% of his time bottom lane because Sakura is doing so well for himself top. Now, after that gank, they get the kill on towards Neon and can look to set themselves up. I think their first Drake of the series.
Oh no, SK had a lot of control over the last Drakes.
That's true, that's true. They had a lot of Drakes. They had the first Drake of this game.
He knows what's going on. It is a mountain to start off with, and it looks like with Leader coming down, SK a little bit scared to commit. They are going to continue up. Half health on this Drake as Misfits hanging about. Obsess actually really wants to contest this. True shot comes in. Obsess jumps over the wall, tries to steal it away, doesn't secure it as Frennick does pick it up.
Yeah, it looks like maybe an early smite there from Obsessed. They were trying to time it with that true shot barrage. Not able to follow through on that though. So SK, they are back in a good spot in this game. And knowing that Neon doesn't have the flash and SK have so much vision denial around this river, I think we're just going to see Frennick go bot lane again and again and again and get Kadui as many kills as possible to fully put themselves in control.
I mean, it was exactly what he did last game as well. So maybe, hopefully it works out a little better for him in this game.
Yeah, because in the last game, the problem, again, was that Leader and Obsess always rotated and always punished. So they have to be very smart with their windows when they look bottom lane. Otherwise, the same thing will happen again. It's not like Frennick is playing very different than he did in the last game. It's the fact that off of that play, Leader wasn't able to push and wasn't able to collapse immediately. So there are very brief windows that SK has to work with.
Well, Obsess looking for Genax here. Got that blue buff, catches him out. The Winter's Wrath is on. Emperor's Divide and Genax forced to run away. Does have to ulti to get away from Obsess.
Yeah, very low on mana as well without a blue buff, so...
Does have a blue buff.
Does have a blue buff?
He does have a blue buff.
All right, well, then he can sustain a little bit through that, but Misfits looking to force him off of this tower.
They want a ward.
They want to get that plate.
He has cleanse and flash though, so just looking for the plate for the moment. Will get picked up as Leader, will get that gold as well. SK just force them away, but good rotation by Misfits to send Heaver and Obsess into the mid lane. Just looking to continue here as Kedui actually jumping onto Neon. Neon jumps in, sends him packing. The true shot gets cancelled out and Kedui gets the kill. But in comes Leader. Flawless duet stuns up one. Now they look to turn their attention towards him. Throws out the Vanguard's edge as he jumps away to safety. But the Blade Surge will come up in range and the tower shot comes down. Leader secures the kill. 1-for-1 bot lane.
Hipbrain, I've seen this before. SK make a proactive play around the bottom lane. Kedui basically solo killing Neon, but it's Leader and Obsess that make the rotation down. Now, even though it was an ADC trade 1-for-1, there are 3 members of Misfits in the bottom lane. They're going to take so many plates, and the only response from SK is to take the Herald.
Iceborne Gauntlet's been finished off onto Neon as well. He's recognizing that he's been focused a lot this game. And Leader just getting a lot of solo gold, a lot of plates. As he continues to grow on this Aurelia. 5 games he's played this Aurelia in the live part of the tournament. Every game he's had it. And not at a bad KDA either. Frennick does take away the Rift Herald. So see where he can place that. Try to pull this gold in favor of SK, because the gold still only 1,500 between these two teams. SK can pull this back with a good pick, but Kedui does need to be careful because Neon, with that Iceborne Gauntlet, is fairly safe and able to put a fair amount of poke.
Wonder if Obsess maybe wants to make a play towards the bottom side. You can see using the sweeper right now. Gonna be walking forward.
Oh, Hiva flashes in, packs him away, he jumps out. Oh, lordy, the Justice Punch catches DOS, but DOS is able to make his way out.
It was a close attempt there. Obsess thought he could combo his ultimate with the CC coming down onto Kadui, but with how low this turret is, the SK bottom lane just have to back away.
They might be able to get this tower before the plates go down, and Misfits secure first turret blood. I believe Sakurai was just a little bit slower there. The plates are going to not fall off in time as the Rift Tail will get its charge off. Looks like Misfits might just lose this turret here unless Leader can stop it.
It was a good reply, though, from SK. That mid lane tower very, very low now. Frennick once again securing the Herald for his team. And with all the pressure Sakurai had, 1v1 top lane, that is a pre-14-minute turret as well. So full plate money going to go to Sakurai.
Well, Leader clears out this wave. Genax needs to be careful. Leader does a lot of damage. Got the Triforce, the Tiamat finished up. So you can see Kadui, not even got that Infinity Edge. He's into the Iceborne of Neon, who's working his way towards that Manamune.
In that mid lane now, Leader almost with a 1k lead over Genax. It's not that he's been killing Genax in the 1v1, he's just so active around the map looking for plays. And it's funny too, when I first came to EU Masters, I asked a lot of people, like, what are your thoughts of this player? And people said, you know, sometimes he can be hit or miss. His champion pool is small. Well, so far this tournament, he's received 2 to 3 bans in basically every single game he's played. He's looked good on everything. Even though they're unique champions, he has looked absolutely on fire. And I haven't seen misses. All I see are hits time after time after time. Today has been no different, and Misfits continue to be blessed by his constantly solid play.
Oh, Obsess now has got his ultimate almost up. He's hanging around this bot lane, this mid lane, sorry, seeing if he can find an opening. The flag from Frennick will at least spot him out. As the vision now being placed, SK can see a lot around this Infernal Drake. They want to get their hands on it. Neon on that flank.
Yeah, Hiva as well was able to go all the way around. So if Sakurai was trying to walk in towards the river, Hiva does have the ability to punt him in towards the rest of the team. Misfits have the opportunity to find a collapse from multiple different fronts at the moment, but that could be difficult. If SK decide to turn either direction, they would have a numbers advantage in the ensuing fight.
Well, Misfits do not want to give this up. They send one pack, here comes the Cataclysm. Hiva on the flank, the Vanguard's edge is connected. Nobody secured the Dragon, but Leader flashes into Kadui, gets him up with a stun. He has Blade Surge after Blade Surge to work with. A double kill picked up, and Genax sewing up for the damage onto Genax. Actually gets him. It's a turn around, but Misfits come out on top.
Yeah, and SK lose 3 members there as well. Leader, Obsess, and Hiva easily able to walk back towards the Infernal Drake. It was the setup on the fight. They came in from 3 different angles, collapsing and dividing this SK composition. Even though it wasn't Hiva being able to find the punt onto a member into the rest of the team, he got 3 crucial members of SK to try and turn on towards him. And that meant the rest of Misfits could just blast the front line.
Well, it looks like the Drake RNG is blessing Misfits in this game. In potentially their last game of the European Masters, they get the Infernal Drake. Next Drake up is a Mountain. Would be good for SK if they get 2 of them. Means that Baron will melt to a Tristana, to an Azir. But we'll have to look at that fight once again.
Yeah, watch this one more time. 4 members of Misfits coming in on the left. Genax very, very zoned. And with Hiva coming in, you see Kadui and Sakurai both have to turn attention on towards him. That leaves room for the rest of Misfits to funnel in here. Notice how still SK are split every single place they look to fight. And as this 4-man unit, Misfits run straight down, pick up 3 kills, while Dan doesn't have quite the same luck and drops to Genax.
I mean, he realm walked underneath the turret and then got Emperor's Divided.
It was a bold move.
Yeah, that's a word for it, I guess.
It was not a great move.
That's a better way to describe what just happened. 17 minutes on the clock. Misfits now ahead, 4,000 gold over SK. The item spikes are being hit on every single member. Genax has to play far back. He's so scared that someone could be in a bush, could look for that kill onto him. Cleanse is up, but Flash is down, and that's the key thing.
Neon Hiva taking control of this middle lane as well. You can see that at this point in the game, Misfits are comfortable splitting up across 3 maps. You know, JerAx, they know the Azir doesn't want to be in a side lane, so Misfits are more than confident putting Leader up against him, allowing Leader to constantly threaten forward. And now you see on the map, Hiva and Obsess both moving up because of this priority they have in this middle lane. They can force JerAx off of this tower and secure this one for absolutely nothing.
We're looking to crack that down. There's only 1 turret apiece here for these 2 teams, so Misfits, if they can start to crack open some of this locked gold on the map, will accelerate themselves even further ahead of SK. But I've asked you this every game, so I guess I'll ask you again, Ender. What do SK need to do at this stage? They're 18 minutes into the game, they're down 3,000 gold, and their jungle is currently being caught out by Obsess, who does have that permafrost available, but not going to go for it.
Yeah, I think that SK, out of all of their games, this is the game where they have the strongest team fight damage dealers. With Tristana's range, as well as Azir in the late game, they have a lot of tools to work with. And while I don't think Jace is the best champion to have much later on into the game for the fights, the distance you can create with the self-peel tools of an Azir and the Tristana gives them a really good chance against some of the divers of, you know, leaders Aurelia and Alistar in these later game fights. So if they can hold on, rely on Sakura to continually win the 1 versus 1, eventually they have a very, very strong team fight with that Tristana and Azir. It's just right now with the gold deficit that they're in and the pressure Misfits have created on the map, I don't think taking fights is going to be the best option for them.
I can see Leader quite comfortably clearing out this turret as it finally goes down. Gold lead continues to grow for Misfits as Neon in the mid lane now, just trying to out-clear an Azir. It's not going to happen. Azir has a lot of wave clear.
He also has the help of DOS in that mid lane as well, while Hiva actually making a move towards this bottom lane. They know that Sakura is always pushing up towards the tower. Little does Hiva know, though, that multiple members of SK are near, but they pull off, and he may want to look for this play still.
Dodging out on the shock blast as well. Hiva can't quite find that opening onto Sakura. Sakura steps away, just hits on the cowbell.
All right.
He's just ready to go, man. He's having fun with this game.
And he should be. Misfits are in such a good spot, already up 2-0.
Watch JerAx. He's okay, Obsessed. Not going to go for him. The cleanse is up for JerAx. It's quite hard to find the pick onto him.
Now watch this bottom lane one more time. Hiva now looking for the engagement. He has the Mobius who's chasing him down.
Jumps in, headbutt, and the pole comes down. They root him in with the Rune Prison. The damage coming out from DanDan. Sakurai trying to turn it around, but DanDan secures the kill.
It's the trouble of playing a split pusher when the rest of your team can't do anything in the 4 versus 4. He has no vision control to help him out. Hiva was able to walk all the way towards that bottom lane, spend so much time waiting for him to overstep, and Sakura ends up getting punished. This means big pressure for DanDan down bottom side, and Misfits are able to break even more towards the mid.
And that's the nice thing, because I was talking at the beginning of the game how DanDan was kind of the sacrificial lamb here for Misfits, but with that double kill now he's got, or 2 kills. He didn't get a double kill. They were separate.
He got a kill early.
He's got 2 kills. He's actually not massively behind Sakurai like he has been in previous games. He's quite comfortable at the moment on this Rise. It's not like he's completely being smashed. He's got the Oblivion Orb. The Archangels is fully stacked up. So he's in a comfortable position on this Rise. We've seen Neon with the Iceborne Gauntlet quite freely poking onto Frenic here.
So now it's the Drake spawning up. Misfits going to be sending 5 members towards that area. Sakura getting called off of top lane as well. He's going to make straight line down towards this river. Now, last time SK got put in a really tough position due to some solid flanks by Hiva, but now they find the fight.
DOS does get the taunt on. Instant stopwatch being used out for the moment. They throw down the Cataclysm. A shutdown has been picked up on the JerAx, but in comes Leader, the Vanguard's Edge into the Emperor's Divide. A hero's entrance has been picked up as JerAx has found himself a double kill. Neon goes in aggressive. DOS is low as the great flawless duet. Leader resetting onto absolutely everyone. A double kill for Leader, and Misfits turn the fight.
The fight was so good at the start there from SK, but leave it to Leader to find the 3v5 victory. It is Misfits that come out on top time after time after time. Leader playing out of his mind, goes 6-0 and completely crushing this match.
I am so glad that Leader is stepping up in this game. We bigged him up. We talked about the stats. We showed you the stats. We showed you the replays of this man. And in this game 3, the most important game that Misfits Premier have, he goes 6-0-1 on the Aurelia. Titanic Hydra, Triforce finished up and building towards Hysterics.
He is absolutely on fire, and it's a heartbreaker for SK as well, who thought they did everything right. They knew they were behind, but they picked off Hiva, they picked off Obsess, but they used everything onto those two members. Even though they had the numbers advantage at that point, it was not enough. They needed to escape. Unfortunately, with the mobility that Leader brings with his Aurelia, that was just never going to happen. And Misfits, they take another victory.
And I mean, consistently with this series, Neon is always an item up over Kedui. Obviously, Kedui's items are more expensive in this particular game with the Infinity Edge and the Static Shiv, but man, Neon is just so far ahead once again. As Frennick needs to be careful. Neon just jumps onto him. They are going hard. Dos jumping away. The Truth Shot Barrage goes a little bit wide, and Kedui.
Look at that damage.
What?
That is nuts.
He just did a third of his HP with a Q. That wasn't even empowered by the Essence Flux. That was just a Q.
Yeah, Neon, the silent victor here with 3 items now on the Ezreal, finishing off the Blade of the Ruined King. Means that Misfits maybe just start this up. Remember, they have the Drake, and they forced Frennick back to base. Frennick should be able to get here in time. And they do have one blue orb if they can use it.
Oh lordy, Sakurai 1v1 with Dan. Dan misses out on the Q. Kedui stacking up charges after charges.
But they still get the Baron.
Is able to go onto it, but the rest of the team are onto the Baron here. Leader can hop over that wall at any time. Dan 1v2, disengages and makes his way out. Misfits Premier find themselves the Baron at 24 minutes, and they are setting up to take this series.
And to take it in a dominant fashion. 2-0 currently. They could make this a very short day. If they don't falter on this next push, they can use this Baron to try and break the base and give France their first chance at the title.
And what a heartbreaking way for this game to be going for SK. Coming first out of play-ins, looking so good in their group, looking so good in the knockouts, making it all the way here, knocking out one of the favorite teams in the tournament as well. And then Misfits, who survived the group of death, step up when it matters most. But it's not over yet. It's only 24 minutes on. They do have Baron, and the gold lead is in favor of Misfits, but the game is not over for SK. You talked about their win conditions, you talked about their scaling, and that is their win condition to pull this back.
You know, SK, they talked so much. You know, we heard about the LAN curse, and yesterday I believe SK spoke and said it wasn't just the LAN curse. They could win in semifinals on the live stage. The finals were where they faltered, and again, that seems to be happening for them. Their time is running out if they want to rewrite the narrative of this team, the team that can make it to the end but not finish.
That's going to be the Emperor's Divide. Hero's Engine comes in, knocks up one. Hiva's there. Kedui jumps in as he buster shots one away. Leader falls as Kedui finds the kill. It's a 1-for-1 though as Obsessed is next up on the menu, but watch for Neon, watch for Dan. Neon jumps over the wall, tries to get the counter assassination down as Frennick goes in with a flag, misses out on the drag, and Dos jumps away to safety. SK come out on top.
Misfits dive very deep, and SK are able to pull it back. Still, Neon very, very low. Sakura sitting on the flank, gets the poke.
Not enough damage. A good Rune Prison as well. Onto one as Hiva goes with a headbutt pole. Now Dos jumps out and gets deleted by Neon. 3-for-1 in favor.
And now it's all evened up. 3 members on both sides. Misfits are still pushing. Neon is sustaining with that Blade of the Ruined King. The turret is down.
Misfits are looking to siege here. Their health bars are a little bit low, but with that Baron, with that Mountain, they can crack through these turrets. But it looks like for now, Misfits not willing to commit for the inhibitor.
Not willing to commit, but still this team, even after losing a fight, they are confident enough to stay forward. 7,000 is the gold lead at the moment. Neon, his KDA might not look insane, but once again, he is coming up very, very clutch in these fights.
Building the Lost Chapter and the Sorcerer's Boots on that base as well. This is going to be a very pokey, very bursty Ezreal build with a mixed AD-AP hybrid. He's so easy to tank people as well with the Iceborne Gauntlet, with the slows he can apply.
I have to say at the same time, though, Kadui just finished off his 3rd item. If there is ever a time for SK to make a stand, it is against the last seconds of this Baron buff. It is with this Tristana reaching the 75% crit chance with the IE. The damage is there now for SK. Genax has his third item completed as well in the Ryleigh's Crystal Scepter. The pieces are coming together now for SK, and they're trying to find it.
They're trying to find out to Obsess. He just Arctic Assaults over the wall. The knock-up lands from the flag and drag. Watch Leader, though, as he throws the Vanguard's edge onto Free. The Cataclysm claps him in as he gets the stun onto Kenui. Kenui is deleted! Leon flashes over the wall! Emperor's Divine is dodged away! Leader gets a double kill, connects the flawless duet onto Sakura. In comes Hiva and then chasing for more. A triple kill picked up the Leader, and he's hungry for blood. He's hungry for more. Goes in onto one, can't quite get the kill, gets it down, and Leader comes up huge. Misfits with the ace.
You have got to be kidding me. Leader is not human. He turns it around in the 2v5. Misfits come up clutch, and this game, this series is over.
It is so done for SK, and Misfits collapsing onto the turret, smashing down the base. SK turn their attention to the Nexus, and it is all over for Misfits. They take the series. Oh my god, Leader, that was insane at the end of that game.
Absolutely unreal, turning it on his head, but honestly, every single member of Misfits showed up to play today. One of the most dominant series I have seen. You know, this team all across the board looked so good, coming from 4th place in the regular season of the French LFL, making it through the play-in stages, the group stages, the playoff bracket, always the underdogs, even coming into today. But this team left no doubts in my mind that they are the best regional team here in Europe.
What a showing here by Misfits Premier from the LFL. They shake hands, they hug SK, who have just been defeated. You can see Misfits Premier gathering around that trophy, looking to hoist it up. As ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for your European Masters, Misfits Premier!
Leader, I'm coming to stand next to you because, boy, did you shine.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's been an incredibly long season. You played the LFL, you played the LFL playoffs, you come here with the play-ins, you end up here lifting up that trophy. What has been the key to that success?
I mean, at the start, we were really shaky, I think. Ever since like January, we were really shaky and really emotional. But I think after our win against Rogue, we started to believe in each other more. And I think that made us win this whole thing, honestly.
Hiva, I know this win, this trophy means a lot to you. You've been working for quite a while for this. Is there anything you want to say to your team, to the fans here, to the fans at home?
I mean, I've had a lot of failures, a lot of people doubting me, telling me to quit, to stop trying. But the thing you need to know about me is I will never stop trying. I will just keep going on until I'm back where I belong, at the top. And I will never stop.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, these are your European Masters, Misfits Premier. We're heading over to the house desk to break down that game. Kieran, I hope you enjoyed the game.
I absolutely did. Thank you so much. Misfits Premier are your absolute European Masters. They are the top of the European scene. They've represented the LFL so wonderfully well. They were underdogs in the LFL. They were underdogs in the European Masters, but they have come out on top in the end, and that was an absolutely dominant 3-0 performance over SK Gaming Prime.
And I think just even over the course of their LFL run, and now as they've hit the European Masters as well, you can watch them continually improve. It's massively, massively impressive as well. You can see, having adapted from, look, we're the 1-3-1, now we've team fighting as well. We have so many options available to us, and just have so many carries available to the team.
And not even just that, such a long season. Like you said, you got the regular split in the LFL, run the gauntlet in the LFL to go in, get all the way to the final. Then you've got play-ins, then you've got play-ins playoffs, then you've got the group stage. These guys have not had a rest. We saw them tweeting about it as well, that they literally had about 2 or 3 blocks of scrims, and that was literally about it.
Gentlemen, these guys have proven that they are, without a doubt, the best team in Europe. But commiserations to SK Gaming too. Commiserations to SK for making it to the play-ins to this stage. They just didn't have what it takes. And what is so brilliant about this is time and time again we have seen the winners of the European Masters go on to achieve great things in the esports scene within League of Legends. They have moved up, they have become national and international stars, and I imagine for a lot of these members of Misfits Premier, it is just the start of their career, just the start, that stepping stone to take it to the next level.
I mean, you look at people like Neon as well, who had such an amazing series. He's the first person I'd be looking at as well for that.
Yeah, leader as well. Like, what a standout player. Even in the grand final, best of 5. He plays as if it's solo queue. Like, he just doesn't care. He just keeps going. He gives it his all. And those kind of players are special.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And I think it was so fitting at the end of the European Masters to have Leader pull off that play that he did, the 2v5 scenario where he turned things around, set them up for that win, because it has been the story of Misfits. The bot lane has been brilliant throughout these finals weekends, but the story of Misfits has been Leader through this entire tournament. He has been the one that you give him that limited champion pool, he pops off like an absolute monster, and he says it doesn't matter. And it obviously didn't matter, because he's now in the team that has taken the trophy.
And fact is, even with that, you're saying that maybe it's not always the Leader show, but it is definitely going to be consistently Leader who has impressed. Of course, always drawing bans as well, even in up to this final series.
It was really up against it, like you say, even right from the draft, they tried in the group stage, they tried in the play-ins, throw your bans at him, take Leader out of the game. You just can't do it. At the end of the day, they proved that Misfits, even if you try and go for that playstyle, it's just not happening.
Yeah, you can see that they just had so much comfort available to them that they managed it time and time again, every single team fight. Now, SK tried to bring it back. That game 2 looked relatively close, but at the end of the day, SK were able to kind of bring it back. They were the ones who looked consistent.
And I think also, I think it is worth talking about someone like Sakura, who just has been a performer. Every single game he generated a huge lead in that top lane. Every single game he had an incredible performance, but he just didn't have that ability to convert it.
And almost Genax as well, in fairness, was a big carry potential. But at the end of the day, that was extremely hard. It is just one more win for the Misfits side.
Oh.
The LFL now coming out as the European Masters. Best region. Very impressive. Also 5, for the games that could have been as well. So a few extra baguettes in there.
That weren't, because Misfits made it a 3-0. I mean, we were all saying as we were watching, it almost felt like pre-10 minutes, Misfits had generated a lead that would basically secure them the game. They were getting solo kills, they were getting lane advantages, they pushed it, they took over objectives, they were so good on their rotations, and something that was so impressive about Misfits was their ability to just force turrets. They just forced them, and SK never responded, and that allowed them to snowball those leads.
It was really dominating from Misfits, which I don't think anyone really expected going into it. That we had a few predictions for Misfits, but no 3-0. We thought this would be a lot closer between these two teams. And honestly, as far as LFL is concerned, and as far as the French region is concerned as well, like the last EU Masters, perfect scores coming out of group stage, loads of hype, no one makes it to the offline finals. And now Misfits, we mentioned this underdog storyline. It is a perfect underdog storyline, because no one even thought these guys would get out of groups when they were put in the group of death. The play-ins as well was difficult for them. And now they're just 3-0 the grand finals at EU Masters.
It's big, yeah, it's big things for Misfits, absolutely. And I think all of these players have bright futures ahead of them. But ladies and gentlemen, that is it. Brings us to the close of another season of the European Masters. Thank you for watching. The fans, the viewers, they generate everything for us here. They are absolutely brilliant. But I also want to thank our production team, every piece of staff here at the Haymarket Theatre that has made this event run so smoothly. My colleagues, as you can see on the desk, my wonderful analysts, but all of the casters that we've had throughout this weekend and through the entire tournament have been fantastic. The players and the teams are making this so exciting. This has been one of the best European Masters we have ever had, and especially in terms of talent. A massive thank you to PaySafeCard as well. They made this possible, our primary sponsor. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you and good night.